EAGLES, Eagles.
Welcome in, everybody, to a Tuesday edition of Birds 365 here on JAKIB Sports. I'm your host, Zander Krause. That's my co-host, Johnny Mac, John McMullen, here with you for a Tuesday edition of Birds 365. Johnny Mac, how you doing this Tuesday morning, brother?
Doing well, except for the Kansas City Chiefs going to win the AFC. But
yeah, I watched that game last night. I watched the Sixers game last night, John. I watched the MLB World Series last night, John. I'm sportsed out. I looked at the clock. It's 2:00. I'm like, I got to get to bed, man. I got to get to bed.
Yeah, World Series goes to 2:50 Eastern time.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
14th or 15th inning.
I don't know why they can't start these things earlier. Like, I just don't get it.
Well, I guess you got,
football.
Yeah, right.
Football starts at 8:15, and I'm just like, ugh.
Well, when I lived in Houston, John, I did love Central because everything started an hour earlier, and I was like, man, 7 is so much better than 8 starting. But we roll on, John, and the game went till late in the night. Freddie Freeman won the game. For those who missed it, hit a walk-off there in the bottom of the 18th inning, if you can believe it. We got plenty of stuff to talk about today. Johnny Mac, it was a good sports night, though, last night, as I mentioned. I'm not sure if you caught that Sixers game or any of it. Another good one. They're off to a quick start. So you got me.
BJ, I'm gonna dub this show BJ 365.
Man, I'm telling you what, BJ's got me ready to start a Sixers show, for crying out loud. BJ,
I'm just stunned. I was texting some of my basketball friends, and I'm just stunned that the Sixers made a good decision. And I'm stunned they didn't draft Ace Bailey. And then I said to myself,
Daryl, the one thing he has done well is actually draft,
Well, then I said to myself, that, Ace kind of forced his way out of the Sixers' thought process with his actions. So it's like they probably were going to draft Ace Bailey, but either way, it worked out, which is rare for the Sixers. But yeah, boy, they hit a home run with that kid.
Yeah, well, they've done well. They've done pretty well drafting. I mean, I don't know much about the McCain kid because I didn't watch too much Sixers last year. But I did.
He got hurt early. He's hurt again. I can't say that's a good pick. He had a nice little.
He's got skill, though. He's got skill.
Yeah, and obviously Maxey, for where they got him, is a good.
Yeah, right. Maxey's.
They're not known for making a ton of good decisions, and most people fell into that trap of. And I kind of talked about it. I mean, look, you play at Rutgers and you can't change the program, and they got 2 of the top 5 picks. It's like, come on. Same thing with Ben Simmons at LSU. This kid can just play. He's just a player. And he's got the right attitude. Now, it's the Sixers. Something will probably go wrong, but I don't know if they can screw this one up.
I'll tell you what,
that's how good he looks.
That backcourt, man, that's a young, fast backcourt. When Joel Embiid gets out there, he's slowing them dudes down, man.
The big slog, I call him these days. He just slows everything down. They're a better team when he's not on the floor. Maybe, with his health, it's just tough to get. And that's another thing. It's like, well, he can't play tonight. He's on a minutes restriction this night, every night. It's like, it's time to turn the page, but they'll never do it.
We'll see what they do. It's clearly those 2 contracts are bogging them down a little bit, the Embiid and the Paul George contract. But it is what it is. They do got a good group of young players that's going to be exciting to watch them develop a little bit. Johnny Mac, let's move over into Eagle Land today. We got an opened up show for anybody that wants to send in a super chat. We will take all your super chats. Birds at 6-2. And in the bye week, obviously. So this week is going to look a little different in terms of, prep for the game. There is no game. So we'll kind of look at the midway point of the year, talk about the offense, talk about the defense, talk about the coaching staff, talk about some of the other things, where this team stands about almost midway through the season now for this team. It was a week 8 matchup last Sunday. week 9 bye week, and then we got what, 8 weeks left, John, or 9 weeks? 9 weeks left, right? 9 weeks.
Yeah. Well, the Eagles, I mean, they have 9 games left. So
9 games, yeah, so 9 weeks left.
After the bye week. But it's interesting because this year's totally different. One, it's midway through the season instead of earlier in the season. So normally, I mean, that's better from a traditional bye week perspective, getting guys healthy. Guys are more banged up this time of year. You have more of a sample size to sort of self-scout. But last year, everything went so well after the early bye. That's another part of it. Last year, they were coming off their worst game, Tampa, and they felt they needed to make changes. This year, they're coming off their 2 best games. So that changes the philosophy. And you got to be careful with that because, sometimes you get, sometimes organizations are just like fans. The theory is never get too high, never get too low. You can't
Right. You're
stop.
saying don't get duped by the 2 good game, right? Gotcha.
Exactly. So it'll be interesting to see how they handle it. They're well aware of it, but you got to be honest. I say the toughest thing in the NFL is to be honest with yourself, and in a lot of ways, it's even tougher when you're doing well. To be honest with yourself, people talk about cornerback Keely Ringo's coming off his best game. People talk about edge rusher Jalen Hunt's coming off his best game.
Yep.
Does that, with the trade deadline coming up, does that skew Howie Roseman's thinking? I don't think so, but you never know. You never know.
I feel like Jalix is on the cusp a little bit. I mean, if you look a little deeper, he's got a lot of pressures this year. I feel like he's on the cusp, but John, probably a little early to rely on him as much as they were earlier in the season. So we'll see what they end up doing. But I do think Jalix is coming along, actually.
Well, he had a good game pressure wise, but it's also the circumstance of the game, the complementary football aspect of it. It's no coincidence they had a good pass rush when you made the Giants one dimensional because you're blowing them out. So again, that's the toughest thing. Is he really playing that well, or is it circumstance of the game, and that's where they have to make these decisions? Personally, I don't think he's ready to be a starting edge rusher in this league. I haven't wavered on that. Doesn't mean he can't be down the road. But they put a lot on his plate early in his career after very little playing time last year and some positive nature. And again, if you look at the positive part of his games last year, they're all in blowouts where it's easier. And that specific game, people talk about, and again, we use PFF because nobody's better. And if somebody's better, by all means, point it out to me. The individual grade wasn't that good. He was the 16th defensive player against the New York Giants. Ringo played well. He was number 1. Jordan Davis played well. Quinyon Mitchell, Moro Ajomo, Zach Bond, Cooper, Andrew Makuba had a bounce back game. The worst players, Jalix, Reed, who's having a bad season. Those were the 2 worst players from the guys who played significant snaps. So you got to be careful you got to factor all that stuff in. The circumstance, when everybody's pinning their ears back, it looks a lot better from a pass rush standpoint. But from that play to play where you want it, and again, you got much higher grades in run defense than pass rushing. And Vic has said that, forget about PFF, because some people, they like PFF when you say, hey, Jordan Davis got a great game, but they hate PFF when they give somebody a poor grade. Vic has said pretty consistently he's better defending the run than as a pass rusher, pretty consistently. So he believes he sort of validates that thought when he said he actually played better in run support than as a pass rusher. To me, he's not there as a pass rusher.
Interesting stuff there, John. We're going to look at some of that too as well today. John, they did make a move yesterday, a roster move. I'm blanking on what it was. I believe it was maybe
Perry
just
Nickerson.
Squad. Okay, Perry Nickerson. That's what it was. Yep. They
Yeah.
released Perry Nickerson, right?
Yeah. Well, they have an influx of moves they have to make. That's just one. They have to open up spots for Jacorian Bennett, for Brandon Graham, and for Nolan Smith, whether that comes from the Green Bay game or shortly thereafter. So there's going to be a little bit of influx. This is the first one. So it doesn't really matter who they use it on. It could be Bennett, it could be Graham. They're the ones we know that are going to be back after the bye. And then you have Smith, where there's still a little bit of uncertainty there. So they're going to have to cut somebody else to get both of those players, Bennett and Graham, on the 53 for the Packers. And if they want Smith, that's a third one. So Perry's number one. Then you got to come up with two more. A.J. Dillon with Tank Bigsby coming up.
Yeah.
I mean,
right. That could look there.
And then the third one's going to be a little bit tougher. But if they want all three of those guys, they got to make 3 spots. And, Nolan that's one of those things where there's no guarantee Nolan Smith is going to be active for that game. So you might only need two spots for the Packers game, and maybe shortly thereafter, an injury might pop up and it makes it easier for you. But yeah, they're going to have to open up some spots here quickly.
No doubt about it. Good stuff there, John. You mentioned, so some of the grades there on PFF. The one thing I did hear, a lot of former players are bitching about PFF recently. Did you see that? I think Chris Long was doing it, and I don't know. A lot of them are bitching about PFF.
I did see it was they gave a bad quarterback grade to, I think, Mahomes one. And it's like, it's like I had and even players, the people complaining about PFF are generally, the common theme is to heavily weight splash plays over successful plays. And that's not what they do. It's, did you do your job on a particular play? And that's how they formulate the grade. It's just like teams formulate grades, film grades. It's not, so you're not getting, Saquon Barkley's not getting extra points for a 65-yard touchdown. He's getting, a positive grade on that play, but even that's dampened by the fact that, again, he didn't get touched. So, I mean, you got to give Brett Toth, which I'm glad, because I thought, and I gave him my game ball after the game, and sure enough, he had a great stinking grade, and he played like it, and you can see it. And so, I mean, there's not a guy, the top ranked player on the Philadelphia Eagles offensively was Tank Bigsby, but he only played 16 snaps. So we'll put him off to the side. Had a great game, but we'll put him off to the side. So for the guys who played significant snaps, Brett Toth was number one, and he deserved it. If you watch the film, he deserved it. And Devontae Smith was number 2. He had a tremendous game. Tyler Steen, Saquon, Fred Johnson, and in limited action, did a tremendous job. Landon had his best game of the year, which was offensive line. It's no coincidence when you play like that, offensive line is going to play well, and they did. But yeah, for the people that do that, they heavily weight. Like people asked last year, how could Saquon Barkley not be the number 1 running back? Well, he wasn't. From a play-to-play consistency standpoint. But from a impact standpoint, which is something different.
Right. That's
He was
completely
clearly number one because the impact of the game. But that's so for people that understand what their grades are, what their grades, and they can defend them all they want or not defend them. It's as long as you understand what they're trying to do, it's valuable. But if you don't understand what they're trying to do, it can look like what are you talking about? He had 4 touchdowns. He had to be the best player on the field. Not always. That's not always the case.
That makes sense. John, a day now removed. We're going to get into some of these topics with the trade deadline coming up and different players, and we'll kind of review. We'll do a mid-season review here this week of all the players who have had to step up this year. So Moro Ujomo and Jahad Campbell and Jalix Hunt and all of those guys. So we'll kind of look at all those guys this week. Another day removed, though, John. How do you view that Week 8 game versus the Giants? Is it more of just you flush bad games and you might also flush really good games when they're versus a shitty opponent? Do you view it like that, or is there something else you took from the game that you didn't expand on yesterday?
No, I mean, I think they did their job against a poor opponent, which I think was a positive step forward because they hadn't been doing that, and they have gotten better. And they didn't let them have life, and they didn't let them get confidence like they did at MetLife Stadium. And they put their foot down and dominated a poor team, which is not a bad thing by any stretch. But that doesn't translate to say they should do this against Green Bay. That's where I deter from others who think, well, you can do whatever you want. And I saw one of the national guys this morning. This is what I don't understand, and maybe fans can explain it to me in the chat. Like you got the same national guys telling you 4 weeks ago the offensive coordinator's awful, he should be fired, and they're telling you this morning, oh, they can do whatever they want. They don't have an idea. They can run it, they can pass it, they can. Like, how valuable is that? How valuable is that when the same people are saying 3 weeks ago that they can't do anything?
Yeah, but the games, I mean, the games dictate the change in the tone. I mean, if you just ride the middle the whole season, then yeah, you never have to leave the middle. When it's bad,
it's not necessarily. If you ride realism, you don't go to the extremes.
Well, but John, hear me out. This team lives in the extremes, dude. They do.
No, it lives in the extremes of
no.
Of follow them.
Sorry, I don't agree with you. This week they got the run game going. They didn't just get the run game going. They had 2 running backs over 100. They had 270 total yards. They exploded. Jalen Hurts, he either has a perfect passer rating or he doesn't complete a pass in the second half of a football game. They live kind of on the extremes, John, and some of the analysis that you see.
Why is the assumption of consistency moving forward? You're right to that degree. That's the point. Now, when they play poorly, I'm not telling you to jump off the Walt Whitman. And when they play well, I'm not telling you all the problems are solved. That's kind of the point I'm trying to make.
Well, yeah,
they do live in the extremes on the field. And the fact that they aren't consistent. But nobody has run in the Nick Sirianni era. Nobody has run for more 200-yard games than the Philadelphia Eagles. So why is it a surprise when they have a 200-yard rushing game? Nobody has had more success on the field winning football games, with the exception of the Chiefs. So it's never a surprise when they play well, but it's also you've seen the poor games as well. So it's not going to surprise me at all if they throw for 140 yards against Green Bay and lose a football game. Not to say that's what's going to happen, but it's not going to surprise me if that happens.
But you certainly would understand why that would lead to, extreme rhetoric one way or the other. I mean, it is a sports talk business, John. It is entertainment at the end of the day. I get it. It doesn't mean you have to do it that way. I think we have a great audience on this program because you don't do it that way. But The Eagles, I mean,
I'm just talking about the people who value it one week and then disvalue it the next. It's like you can't have it, but well, you can have it any way you want. People are individuals; they can do whatever they want. But I'm just saying, I don't understand the anger and the angst when the bad stuff comes up. When the assumption is, okay, um, 1 week they're going to say one thing, and then the next week they're going to go 180, and this surprises you because this has been going on for 3 years at least, where it's 1 week it's this team is awful, it can't do anything, and the next week it's this team can't be beaten. It's like that to me is just absurd.
Well, those are the ebbs and flows that that the team puts you on in a way. And I get it. You don't have to subscribe to it. I'm just saying that's where I think a lot of it comes from.
Well, and I'm not even talking about that. I get fans. Fans are emotional. It's their favorite team, so they get that part of it doesn't surprise me at all. Like it's the
Yeah, but
end of the
even
world.
people who turn on the tape, John. I mean, even guys who I don't think view the game like that or analyze the game like that or talk about the game like that. They turn on the tape. It's like 1 week they can't run. Next week they go 280. 1 week Jalen Hurts is absolutely perfect. The week prior he couldn't complete a half pass in the second half. Like if you're analyzing that on a weekly basis and you have a job to do for a network or a company or whatever the case may be, what are you supposed to do? Say, okay, the tape looks terrible this week, but they're probably going to figure it out. I mean, it's just weekly
Well,
analysis.
nobody's saying if the tape looks terrible, say the tape looks terrible. Don't say, it's not because of a lack of execution. Don't say it's not because that this stuff is rare. I mean, the best players in this league have shitty games. It's an imperfect game. That's all I'm trying to say. Like it's not a surprise, and the people, especially for the people who play the game, they understand. You're not. Brett Toth isn't going to play like he played against the New York Giants every week. Not going to happen. Why was Landon Dickerson not playing up to his usual standard? Well, we think we know. Back, knee, ankle. Cam Jurgens back, now knee. We think we know it's injury related because they have a long history of playing pretty good football. Um, but I'm just speaking to the people who get angry at it. Like, all right, and you can do whatever you want, but what with the guys who go to the extremes that I'm talking about and say 1 week, well, this is the most uncreative, stupidest offense. They run routes. No, they can't run routes. Anybody else runs. Those people versus, and then 2 weeks later, it's like this team can't be stopped. Which
Well,
is it?
I certainly don't think that, but I do think, I think there is a gray area that you're missing a little bit. I mean, I don't think it's all just aggregators like that and
These
guys.
aren't. I'm not talking about. I don't care about. These are high level people who are on ESPN and Fox and Game Day
We had
Football.
Kurt Warner on yesterday. I mean, he was excellent talking about the team. Yeah, I mean, he doesn't view it as all perfect right now for the Eagles, but he gave good context to the team and to the offense and to everything that goes around it. To AJ Brown,
Well, yeah, Kurt's not one of the ones I'm talking about.
Yeah, Kurt
But
was really
you
good.
can figure out who they are because somebody went on today said, "I don't know how you're going to stop them." And 4 weeks ago it was Patullo's got to be out of here. I mean, just saying, you can value it if you want. It's up to the person. I'm just saying that loses credibility with me personally. That's all.
Oh, that makes sense for you, but I mean, I think at the end of the day, there is, it's like we say, it's a week to week league. It's a week to week
Oh, it
in
is.
commentary
I
too.
say it all, and nothing's transitive. Forget about the Giants game. Forget about it. That's not going to mean a goddamn thing. Excuse me. Not going to mean a thing against the Green Bay Packers. Not going to mean a thing when they come back. Other than they performed very well, and it was a nice step forward from where they had been. And they certainly seem to be getting back to what they were or closer to what they were last season offensively, which is built on the running game first and foremost. And they ran the football better than anybody else has ran the football this year in the NFL, which, considering how they were the first 7 games, excuse me, is kind of shocking. But the more shocking part to me is not the 276. The more shocking part to me was the first 7 games. Because one thing this team has always been able to do since basically game 8 of Nick Sirianni's first year is run the football. They ran it well before Saquon even got here. So that, to me, and I said it pretty consistently on all the shows, was the strangest part to me about this team, that they could not run the football. And all the talk about heavy boxes and all that, they based more heavy boxes than anybody last year.
Yeah.
Didn't matter. And they figured it out, and they figured it out.
The rate is still up, though, this year from last year for the Eagles on facing full boxes. They put that stat on the broadcast this week, beginning of the game.
Well, it got skewed a little bit by Minnesota as well, because they went to a bunch of 6-man fronts. So, Again, it's like it is spiking. That's another thing. It's like spiking. Devontae Smith goes from nowhere to 6 in one game, and Saquon Barkley goes from nowhere to top 10 in one game in the stack. So you have to be very careful when one team goes overboard, whether it's success on the field in the case of Devontae and Saquon, or one team goes overboard with a loaded front game plan. You know, I haven't looked at it, but the Giants scaled that back dramatically from what the Vikings were. So that's wholly dependent on the opposition and what they're doing. But the point is, when they got loaded, and nobody gave them more loaded boxes than the Los Angeles Rams last year, and nobody did a poorer job stopping the run than the Los Angeles Rams against the Eagles. They gave up 4 60-plus yard touchdowns to Saquon Barkley.
I think Saquon's now second in NFL history on 60-plus yard touchdown runs.
Yeah, he tied. Yeah, he tied.
Tied with Derrick Henry and maybe one more. I think
Jim Brown.
And Jim Brown. And
Adrian's number 1. Adrian's got 15. Right? Yeah.
And Adrian Peterson. Yeah, I mean, John, I hear your point on all the commentary. The one thing I would say is, like, if you
the only reason I say this is because I saw it this morning and I'm like,
yeah, no, I get it. And I understand your perspective on it. But the other thing I would add is, like, yeah, I mean, if you do stay in the middle, which I think is an appreciated perspective, it's the easier way to go. But even if you look at, like, zoom out on this team, 23, 10-1, and then epic collapse. So anybody who was riding the low, whether you agreed or not, ended up being right. And then last year, anybody who was riding the high, they go 16-1 in their last 17 games and they win the Super Bowl. It's like everything about this team, John, is either really high or really low. It's kind of the nature of this team.
Yeah, but that's not what I'm talking about. I don't think I think it's easy to do the shit that I'm talking about. I don't think it's easy to talk sense. Because if you go back, we've been doing the show for years. You go back to the 10-1 start, all I talked about was how bad that defense was. And even after, when everybody was blaming the offense, I said, the offense has had little pockets of good games. They didn't collapse. The defense collapsed. And it's all up there on our page. Everybody can go look at it.
Yeah, it is.
Last season, I mean, people would say, well, they win when they're in Kelly Green, or they win one, or Brett Johnson came in, they won with Brett Johnson. I'm like, they won with everybody. They won every game. It didn't matter if they wore Kelly Green, if Brett Johnson played, if so-and-so played, if Zander Krause. They won every game. So, yeah, I think it's harder to point out the realistic standpoint than going the natural. The easy part is you play a bad game, it's Chicken Little, the sky is falling. You play a good game, it's, oh my God, they figured it out. Against the New York fucking Giants with no playmakers at home where they haven't won in over a decade at Lincoln Financial Field. Really? They figured it out?
Well,
if they figured it out, you'll be able to see against Green Bay and Detroit after the bye. They haven't won in Philadelphia since 2014.
all right. Well, what's your realism view at this for this team right now, 6-2? Compared to how you viewed them at the beginning of the year.
They're one of the 5 or 6 teams that have a legitimate shot at the Super Bowl, but they have to do a lot of things better. Right now, I don't think they're the best team in the NFC, but they're in the conversation. And you don't have to be the best team at, where they are week 9 heading to the bye week. You don't have to be the best team. They weren't the best team last year, week 9. That was Detroit. But they got a bunch of injuries and they ended up on top, and they're playing their best football at the end of the season. So they're on the short list, and that's why they're not trading A.J. Brown. They're on the short list of teams who have a legitimate shot at winning the Super Bowl, and that's where you want to be. But you see cracks and saying, they still have to pay again. I just gave you it. Brett Toth was phenomenal in that game. In a game where I think everybody was panicked. Brett Toth against Dexter Lawrence. Sometimes that happens in sports. Played the best game of his life. Is that going to be consistent? Does it even need to be consistent? Is Cam Jurgens going to be back? When is Nolan Smith going to be? I just brought up Jalix Hunt. Like everybody's like, Jalix Hunt. It wasn't that good. You still need an edge rusher. And I don't think Brandon Graham is the answer as the new edge rusher. I don't even think Nolan Smith is the answer. I think they need an edge rusher. And I mean, not necessarily a Myles Garrett-like centerpiece, but somebody who can be a Bradley Chubb or a Jalen, somebody who can step in and be the top guy.
Do you think they'll do that, John? Because Howie's been kind of all cheap this year, but he also has, was in talks for Micah Parsons. So if there's a player that good, hey, he's willing to spend. Again, kind of the tale of the extremes. Yeah. You're either looking at $1 million Uche or $47 million Parsons. Where do you think Howie will be at the trade deadline here? You think he will make a move? I think
he's going to try to make a move. Will he make him again? That takes 2 to tango. But he's definitely going to try to make a move. He doesn't like to sit still in general. B, he knows this team can win another Super Bowl if things go the right way. So, he knows. I think he's one of his strengths is the ability to be honest with himself. And he sees the same holes that we see. And that, to me, remains the biggest hole. So I think he's going to try to get something done. Doesn't mean he can, but I think he's going to try.
We'll see what they end up doing. The names that you mentioned, you like Chubb the best, or I think that's what you said last week?
Yeah, I mean, he has a long history with Big, so he understands what's going on from a system standpoint, so it won't be that long ramp-up period. And he's not Micah Parsons, but he's better than what you have. So, and you don't necessarily need Micah Parsons, but because I think they have a lot of, I think if you get if you get that top piece, everybody falls into place. Nolan's a good number 2. Jalix is a good number 3. Brandon is an excellent number 4. We'll see what he has left, but I think everything falls into place if you knock those guys down one spot.
What do you think happens with the linebackers?
Yeah, that's interesting. Boy, that's a tough one.
Yeah. I mean, because I don't know what, not everybody likes to use PFF. It is what it is. But for those who care about the grade, Jahad Campbell's the highest graded Eagles defender right now or on defense. So above Zach Bond, right below Joshua Uche, who has lesser snaps but is grading out well on PFF.
Yeah, that's another thing. Uche probably should be playing ahead of Brandon if he gets somebody, which would be interesting because he's played really well. But look, Nakobe brings a lot. He's physical. He just brings a more physical presence. He's a better run defender. He's savvy. He understands. He's got a high football IQ. He's a good player. He is a good player. And by the way, if you play him, that enables Zach Bond to do a lot more when it comes to the playmaking aspect of it. On the other hand, Jahad Campbell was playing great. And yeah, there's some rookie hiccups, and he doesn't have that same football IQ at this stage of his career. But boy, he's talented, athletically gifted, and that's your future. And he's done nothing to, say that you should sit him on the bench. But that's the old good problem to have adage, which the word problem exists in that, and it is a problem because Vic is clearly, he likes Nakobe. Not that I knew that. I told people that, but he's shown it. He wants him on the field, and if he's on the field, Jahad is not going to be able to be on the field because he's not one of the top 4 edge rushers, at least when Nolan Smith comes back. And this is assuming you don't acquire somebody. Even if you don't acquire somebody,
Right.
He's not one of your best 4 edge rushers. So, I mean, he's going to play less. I don't know if I agree with that. In fact, I would say I don't agree with that. And I love Nakobe as well.
Trying to win for 25, though? I mean, look, Jahad's got an amazing upside. I don't think he's the player that Nakobe Dean is right now in 25.
Well, Nakobe didn't look that great. He's one of the guys that, and part of it is just knocking the rust off. He missed a couple of tackles. He looked bad in coverage on the one play. Part of it is just knocking the rust off. But clearly Vic trusts him. And he does. You can see the leadership and the physical presence that he brings, which is interesting because Jahad's much bigger, but Nakobe's the more physical player. Yeah, it's tough. I love Nakobe Dean, but I'd be playing Jahad Campbell.
Has your thinking on Nakobe Dean's future changed at all?
No. I mean, a little bit because Vic loves him so much. And if he keeps getting better and he plays and they win the Super Bowl again, Vic might say, "No, look, this guy's a big part of it." But I think Howie is pretty much in charge. Not pretty much. He's in charge of the roster. So at the end of the day, when Vic leaves his office, he'll go, well, I got to pay this guy. I got to pay this guy. I got to pay this guy. And presumably if he plays well and they win another Super Bowl, there's going to be another suitor out there that says, all right, I'll pay this guy pretty significant money. So I don't see how it fits from that standpoint still. And Jahad's the future, obviously. So not too much other than Vic has validated that he loves him as a player.
I don't know. I'm thinking Nakobe Dean might be back, J-Mac.
Don't see the avenue.
I don't see the avenue if the only way to play Campbell is off ball.
Well,
then you got a real tough avenue.
There's no evidence.
Nakobe's what, 24 years old?
Yeah, he's very young, but
that's what I mean. And coming off that
he's
big
also
injury,
got a significant injury history with serious injuries.
Well, that's what I mean, though. Maybe his market value is somewhat cheaper than the average linebacker who's playing as good as Nakobe has, and you can get him for a couple years for $5 million a year, $7 million a year, $8 million a year, somewhere in that range.
Remember, if they go one and done, it's not a conversation. So the only way it becomes a conversation is if they go deep in the playoffs or even win the Super Bowl again. And that by nature would elevate his value because he would have proven that he's healthy, back playing at a high level. So that by nature would elevate his value. If they don't get to that level, say they're a one and done team, then they're like, oh, we're moving on. We're we drafted Jihad. He's our guy. So I don't see a big path for that to happen. Because, and then the second part of it is there's no evidence other than how he's saying it when he drafted him. There's no evidence that this guy's going to be a big time edge rusher, Jihad Campbell. But there's a lot of evidence that he's going to be a big time off ball linebacker. I mean, he just, everybody makes the Micah comparison like it was right away. It was, Lawrence got hurt and I forget the other guy who got hurt. And they had to play him at edge and he just exploded. There's no, that's not happening here. And in fact, he's getting dominated when he plays on the edge. He's playing poorly when he plays on the edge, as opposed to being a difference maker when he's off ball.
How unrealistic is it to think that in a couple years, Nakobe Dean is your Mike and Jihad Campbell is your future Zach Bond?
Well, Zach Bond's the best defensive player on the team.
I mean positionally on the field. I don't mean output.
Well, what I'm saying is, where's Zach going to be? Out? Because Zach's your best defensive player.
Well, they signed a 3-year contract with Zach. Most of those contracts have been out after 2 years. I don't know.
That's what 20, I mean.
He turns 29 in December. He'll be 30 at the end of next offseason.
But he didn't play. He didn't play for 5 freaking years.
Yeah, so he's still pretty young. I mean, it's not like he's old, but 30 is
from the odometer, the snap counts.
It's like an old car that's been in the garage for years.
Yeah. I mean, right now he's unbelievable, Zach Bond. So I can't even picture that conversation. I mean, I guess it's possible that he all of a sudden turns into a bad player, but I don't think so.
Yeah. I think it would more be just the money and the business element,
I mean, things do move quickly in the NFL and you don't stay at that level, but I think Zach Bond is, man, he's been such a great player for this team. And he can do it all. He plays Mike. He plays Will.
Yeah,
he can play edge. Yeah, I'm not moving on from Zach Bond in the near future.
That's going to be an interesting one to see how that plays out. There's no doubt about it. Good stuff, everybody. Appreciate you all for being here this morning. Don't forget to hit that like button. Birds sitting at 6-2. Heading into the bye week, we're going to get into all of the topics this week on where we are, middle of the season, how we're analyzing, the losses that the team has had, some of the new players stepping up. Just kind of talked about Jihad Campbell stepping in. We will continue some of that conversation here this week. Let's go to our 2 super chats today. Alexander Harris checking in. What's up, brother? One thing I'll say I love about Dean is when he sees it, he shoots the gap like a bat out of hell, and I think we've missed that. There's no doubt he does that, man. He gets back there quick.
Yeah, he's a very instinctive player. He sees, that's a big thing with linebackers, I think, more than any other position, because there's so many good athletic linebackers that take false steps. And when you do that, a 4.4 turns into a 4.8 real quickly. And Jakobi just is I don't want to say he's Luke Kuechly, but that's the most instinctive linebacker I've ever seen. He's more tilting towards that level, who reads everything, understands everything, and rarely takes the false step. So, and again, the physical aspect, the way he plays, which probably, by the way, contributes to his nature of getting injured. He's just more physical. Like Jihad is way bigger, but nobody's going to say Jihad is more physical. Just Jakobi is. I'm not disputing that Jakobi's a good player. In fact, I gave him more credit, I think, last year than most people for what he brought to the Eagles defense. But the way Campbell played at the start of this year, I said it when he came back. I can't sit Jihad Campbell. I can't do it. They can. He already did.
Yeah, I was going to say. They're doing it.
So I don't agree with it. There are a couple times where Vic and I disagree. And
I wonder if it will vary by opponent. Like, think about Detroit. I know they have a great run.
Definitely vary. He's playing Jakobi in base, and the Giants played a lot of base last week. So it will definitely vary. There will be, like, Green Bay is playing all 11. It'll vary. Jihad will play more against Green Bay.
Lions could be a tough one because they have a great running game.
They do both.
Yeah, they do both.
But the Packers will be in all 11 basically. And I haven't seen a ton of Packers, but I don't see Matt LaFleur playing changing from his history. So yeah, definitely it'll change via opponent, and if it doesn't, that means he's shifted and playing Jakobi more in nickel, which, I think Jihad has the big advantage in that instance. So I don't see that happening. But yeah, I mean, if you want to line up in 12 and 13 like the Eagles do, if the Eagles defense was playing the Eagles offense, Jakobi would be playing a lot.
Yeah, no doubt. Good stuff there. Appreciate everybody for checking in today. Alexander follows up. So, question: do you feel the run defense has been better since Dean came in?
A little bit, yeah. Yeah. I mean, he's better at it. Yeah, I think that's fair. I mean, one of the big things, one of the issues I talked about when, playing Zach and Jihad together was that Zach would have to play Mike, middle linebacker, because Jihad wasn't going to be able to do that. And I think that takes away a little bit from Zach's playmaking ability to have that much responsibility. But it worked out well. He can do everything. And it did take a little bit away. And when Jakobi's out there, he can be more free to do some different things. So I think that's an advantage with Zach Bond. I think Zach is probably better with Jakobi, and that's probably the foundation of Vic's thinking. It's really about Zach Bond, not about Jihad Campbell versus Jakobi Dean. It's probably about Zach Bond and his ability to do more things. But ultimately, it's a good problem to have, to say the least.
John, even if it's not in Philadelphia, I'm going to ask you to try and project or predict what a Jakobi Dean contract might look like this summer, even if it's not in Philly.
Well, there's so much that has to happen first. If he stays healthy and plays well,
go too great. Yeah, I mean,
I still think they'll try to limit it because of the injury history. But if he plays well and they go deep into the playoffs, he's definitely going to be over 9. He's going to be in the 9-10 million area, I would think. They'll try to keep it short, and I think Nakobe should try to keep it short. Because if he's still young and can go back, and if he has like 4 healthy seasons in a row, I think that's the way he should approach it too.
That's a risk for him, though, man.
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, but he's definitely going to be hampered by his injury history, no doubt about that.
Yeah. 3 for 30. That sound too rich to you?
Well, remember the cap goes up, so no. I think 2 for 20. I think they'll try to keep it at, but
we'll see. I'm a Nakobe Dean fan, and I like the leadership. I like
it's
the
not
approach.
like there's nothing not to like about Nakobe
I agree.
Dean.
No, it's not. And I know you're not saying you don't like the player because of what you're saying. You're just saying the business is in the way right now for Nakobe Dean, which it clearly is, and we can all see that. Good stuff. Let's go to Jared. What's up, Jared? More impressive, Bo Nix's second half or Jalen against the Rams? Bo Nix's
second half against the Eagles?
Against the Eagles?
Yeah, well, I'm going Jalen. I don't think Bo was that impressed.
Or Jalen's second half against the Rams.
I don't think Bo was that impressive.
And then he says, and last time you guys got in a fist fight, Jared, you're going to bring me back to my darker days, man. Love you guys. I don't really have an answer for the fist fight one. I know what it was, but I don't really want to put that out on the air.
I don't even remember what it was, but all I remember about Bo Nix is throwing back shoulders to Cortland Sutton. I mean, that's not.
Yeah, right.
That's like, oh shit, we can't do anything else. Let's throw a bunch of shit to the receiver they can't cover. And you got to make the throws, but it was not an impressive quarterbacking performance by any stretch of the imagination.
Jared, good stuff. Appreciate the super chat. Appreciate everybody for the super chats today. All right. Last night was a great sports night. We talked about it a little bit at the Open.
Oh, Tani got on 9 straight times.
9
I said that pregame.
dude.
9 times. 9 consecutive times.
That is nuts. That is crazy. I watched the game until I think it was the 14th or 15th inning I went up. I'm sitting there, John. My eyes are getting heavy, and I don't really get tired too quick at night. I'm more of I can be a night owl. And I look at the clock. I'm like, holy shit! I gotta go to bed, man. What the hell? It was like 2 a.m. I'm watching the MLB game, but it was a great game. I love the World Series, John. It's one of my favorite sporting events. Always has.
Yeah, well, my team's out of it. My team's not the team of the constituents.
I love when you show your fan tendencies.
Yeah. Well, my team's out of it. I check out of baseball completely.
See, everybody, John's a fan just like us. It's just not for the Eagles, all right? Yeah. It's for the Yankees. When Yankees get eliminated, John is done. I am
out. I am out. Yeah.
Yeah.
Although I do respect when a Tani does something like he sets seems like a World Series record every day or a playoff record. He set 2 records yesterday. Times on base 9, never happened before. And he had 4 extra base hits, 2 home runs, 2 doubles, never happened before in the World Series.
He is crazy, man.
Dude's amazing.
He really is amazing. And Freddie Freeman is another amazing player. He obviously did what he did last year in the World Series, and now he is just freaking.
And they've been playing the World Series for a long freaking time.
I know. It's unbelievable. Freddie Freeman, though, walks it off last night, bottom of the 18th inning. Boy, I saw somebody commented earlier. I think it was you, Real Zeal. Atlanta did him dirty, and I am happy to see him go and thrive and make big plays and big-time moments. I'm a big Freddie Freeman guy, John. I know Philly fans won't like that.
I hate him because he destroyed the Yankees.
Well, he absolutely did, but I respect him.
No, I don't hate him. I'm joking, by the way. No, he completely dominated the World Series last year. Great player. Great player.
Good stuff there. We got a big super chat there. Alexander, thank you, brother. I appreciate this, man. 2 super chats earlier from you, and now a big $50 super. Appreciate it, dude. He says, loving Hurts under center. Why do you think it's taken so long for that to happen? And what do you think it did for the offense overall? Because it seems like the offense has been more efficient over the last 2 weeks because of it. You guys are great. Thank you, brother.
Well, they've definitely been more efficient. I mean, part of it is the simple fact that they never did it before, so they surprise people.
Right.
So you have to be wary of that. But it's nice to see them being able to do it and do it effectively. And it just adds another part to the offense. As far as what took so long, well, they had a lot of success playing the way they played for a long time, and was starting to wane a little bit. So they made some changes, and we'll see as teams adapt. Because now, again, it's going to be on film, and good teams at least, will be more prepared for it. So it's a constant back and forth, but they're always going to be a predominantly gun team. But it's nice to know that they can go under center and pass the ball, which, they would occasionally go under center, but it would always be a run for the most part. And obviously tush pushes and things like that. So it's a positive step that they're able to, engage the passing game from that perspective.
Is the narrative that Jalen doesn't like to do it, you think that's going to be put behind him pretty quickly here?
Yeah, I think he's proven that he can do it. So,
Yeah.
And again, that's more than Jalen. It's because of the way they played. Like, I think people they're insulting Jalen Hurts. Like, if you watch the Eagles in the Jalen Hurts era, they're a gun team. They're a pistol team.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, it's like, so the assumption is, like everybody else, because that's how they play college football, that's what they're most comfortable with. That's all it was.
Yeah, but I'm
It
always
wasn't.
been of the belief if it doesn't work or if it stops working, and the coaching staff should be forcing evolution or pushing them in places to get better. I always thought that this was an obvious addition to the offense.
Well, it's. I mean, it's worked, but again, part of the working is they surprise people. So that's not always going to be part of it. As teams see it, now they'll say, all right, this is a possibility.
Right. But it does open things up. It does give you more optionality in the playbook and some of those things, right?
Well, yes and no. I mean, again, I bring it so you can watch all the legitimate play action teams. I brought this up yesterday. One of the things that frustrates me about play action teams is there's good to be in a gun team. There's bad to be in a good gun team. There's
Right.
good to be in a play action team. There's bad to be in a play action team. Everything has its holes. In the case of play action, I tell people one of the things when I'm watching a play action team, so think Kyle Shanahan, think the 49ers.
Right.
When I'm watching that type of team, one of the things that drives me insane is when you're third and long and it's a gotta have it moment in the game. And because they're a play action team, there's all these mechanisms to play action that quarterbacks have to do. It's very detailed. And so when they're 3rd and 12, say in the fourth quarter, and you need a first down, and say you're down 3 points, you'll see a lot of play action teams use that play action, even though everybody in the building
Right.
knows it's a pass. And they're literally turning the backs to, let's pretend it's Micah Parsons or Myles Garrett. And I'm thinking, why in God's name? Everybody in the building knows it's going to be. Why are you turning the back to the? And then all of a sudden it's a sack and it's game's over. And I go, I just don't understand it. I do understand it, but I'm like, why not put them in the gun? Why? Because they're not as comfortable.
Right.
It works both ways. So, now it's new for Eagles fans, although you've seen play action in the past because the game especially older fans, was more like that. And you've seen the other side of it. If you
So
really
what I'm hearing though is that we have the opportunity. Doesn't mean it will be realized, but to get the best of both worlds in a way.
well, that's what they can't be stopped, Xander. They can't be stopped. They
No, but I
can't be
mean,
stopped.
seriously, with Jalen, I mean, you bring up a good point about quarterbacks like a Purdy or even a Goff. Those guys aren't gonna thrive in what they haven't done. Just like Jalen has been a gun quarterback his whole life. But if Jalen's proven he can be under center, and that 3rd and 12 does come, and you don't have to play action because your quarterback is certainly already capable of doing that. I mean, there could be a world there where you're looking at trying to get the best out of it. But it doesn't mean it's always going to be perfect. But I think that's a potential upside there.
Well, it's definitely an upside that they put it on film that they can do it. It's definitely an upside. I'm not saying it's not an upside. I just wouldn't get, you know, like last week. I mean, right off the bat, and by all means, because I know Brett Toth's wife doesn't like bad things about Brett Toth, but um,
What do you mean?
she claps back on people who criticize Brett. But
What, on
I'm
Twitter?
joking. Yeah, I'm joking. I don't think he's going to play that well every week. Like right off the bat,
The Toth family is a sassy bunch.
yeah.
Remember when he clapped at BLG? I thought that was the most ridiculous tweet I've ever seen.
I mean,
Clapping at BLG over
he
a traded tweet.
like I don't think people recognize, again, when you play well, generally the players play really well. And when you play poorly, generally the players play really poorly. Like I've been pretty consistent on this show. I think people put way more impact on the coaches than they deserve. Like as simple as that. When you play well, the players are playing well. And when you play poorly, the players are playing poorly. That's generally what happens in this league. Not to say coaching, it's the most important. If you look at the major professional sports, NFL coaching is definitely more important than, say, baseball and the World Series and basketball. And I assume hockey, you're the hockey expert. I'll defer to you. Definitely football coaching is more important in those sports, but it's still got more to do with the players than the coaches.
Yeah. Gotcha. Good stuff there. Alexander, appreciate the big super chat, brother. Goes a long way in supporting the show. So we appreciate that, my friend. We'll take a quick commercial break, everybody. When we come back, we'll dive into where this team is 6-2 right now. A lot of defensive talk today. We will get into a little bit more of the offense, what it will look like or what it could look like with the return of A.J. Brown, what the update is on him, John, what you know about that. We'll kind of dive into some of that. Kind of been quiet on that front. And the other thing, John, that's been quiet is, did we get an MRI update on Cam Jurgens last week?
Nope.
Why?
The Eagles don't give injury updates. I wrote a comment. By the way, I don't know if anybody heard Nick Sirianni's press conference yesterday. It was the worst ever. It was the worst ever.
Oh, I wish we started the show with that.
I mean, it was god awful. It was god awful. He wouldn't ask a question about giving a cowbell to Tank Bigsby and Saquon Barkley after the game. Like, he answered nothing. Nothing. Now, and I wrote a column on SI so people can check it out if they want or not. But the point I was, he talks about all this joy. You need to have joy. He goes to Steve Kerr. He needs to find his joy. First of all, he looked like he hadn't slept. He looked like you watching World Series till.
Yeah, I probably look like I haven't slept today either. My bad, everybody.
He looked haggard. He looked tired. He's become basically. I compared it to Marshawn Lynch for people that remember Marshawn, who got fined for not talking at the Super Bowl, and he came out the next day and he said, "I'm here so I don't get fined."
Yeah.
That's what Nick is coming across to me. He's there so he doesn't get fined. He didn't ask. It didn't matter what the question was, whether it was football stuff. I asked him about Nakobe Dean. I gave him a freaking
layup,
batting practice fastball. Nothing. Zach Berman asked him about the cowbell for people who saw his post-game press conference. He was like, I'll let the players if they want to let you know. I'm like, what are we doing here? I got to talk to this guy 3 times a week, 4 times after games. I mean, you're one of the most successful coaches in the Super Bowl era, literally. It's John Madden, George Allen, and Nick Sirianni. For those who don't know, that's how good the Eagles have been, and they're coming off an 18-point win, an 18-point rout, and this guy's like, as his resume grows, that's how I started it, he recedes. Should be the opposite. I don't get it. I don't understand it. It's not helping his team. The reason I brought this up is because you talk about the injuries. I don't know a goddamn thing about the injuries. Because Howie bullies the players into not talking about the injuries. And he won't talk about the injuries. So I don't know what's going on with Cam Jurgens, other than I saw him and he wasn't limping. That's my extent, my expertise. Because they don't give any legitimate updates on injuries at all.
Well, if you take your personal out of it, because I understand where you're coming from as a reporter, as a beat reporter of the team, do you think it is meaningful for him to be that way? In terms of just not giving anything? I mean, you know what I mean? Just trying to keep
well,
it's
he
a competitive
plays
league. Everybody, you know what I mean? Stuff like
he
that.
He plays the competitive advantage card. But what does a cowbell have to do with competitive advantage? Other than I said, Mississippi State gimmick infringement. How is that competitive advantage? That is the most innocuous question. Why are you giving out a cowbell?
Anything said will be used against them, and in a way, it is in this city. I mean, sometimes you just
he's got to turn the people there on Monday are the people that are there every single day that he's built a relationship with, at least to a certain degree, that have never burned him with any information, to my knowledge. These are the people you should trust.
So do you feel insulted by it?
Oh yeah, I feel insulted by it. But that's not the point. The point is, let's use AJ as the question. How many people in this town think AJ Brown wasn't really hurt last week?
There were
going into the game.
Talk of that for sure.
He's hurting the team. Like, if you just say, hey, AJ's dealing with some stuff. He got hurt on the final game play against the Vikings. It was a tough tackle. You can see kind of, wrenched it. He's dealing with some stuff. Even if you say that, it's in people's mind. All right, he got banged up at the end of the game. It's in people's mind. Now, again, same as AJ, an unforced error when he goes on Twitter and says, using me while not using me, whatever he said. Unforced error. Well, it's an unforced error by Nick Sirianni to ignore the situation and not give at least something to the point of, hey, he's dealing with something. This is not bullshit because he's not happy about the offense, which I heard so many times. I'm not saying everybody, but I heard that from a lot of people. I'm sure you heard that from a lot of people. You can cut that off at the knees with just a simple, he's dealing with something. We'll see how he is. Other than we'll see. You'll get an injury report. And by the way, with all the gambling stuff happening with the NFL, with the NBA, excuse me, and Baltimore getting in trouble with their shenanigans with Lamar Jackson, this team's going to be forced to go in a certain direction when it comes to injuries and be a little bit more forthcoming. So you can argue competitive advantage, but you're also putting you're putting your players in a position to where people question them. And this goes back
But
long before.
but do those narratives really matter if the people in the room who are, you know, behind those NovaCare walls know what the truth is? Does it really matter what we think about AJ Brown's injury? I'm just trying to
Well,
play devil's advocate, look at it from Nick's perspective.
it doesn't matter from the standpoint of to their jobs. I agree with you 1,000%. But the problem is then, you know, behind their complaint, oh, they do this, they say this, that's bullshit, that's bullshit. Well, why wouldn't they speculate? I have no information.
Yeah, but what is it? It doesn't impact anything other than that there's talk in the media of speculation.
Well, and they don't like it. So you
are right. And then they try and muzzle everybody who talks about the shit that they don't like.
I mean, it's fine if you want to go that route and say we don't.
Is the product of 4 years or 5 years now in Philadelphia, John?
Oh yeah, he looks like a president, man. He looks like he's aged.
Yeah,
tired, haggard.
It's a tough city. It's a tough media. It's a tough, you know.
Yeah, you know, again, I don't think we're that tough.
I don't think you guys are tough at all. I think the Eagles have made it so you guys can't really be tough.
I think they conflate all media together, and there's a group that do shit that they don't like that has nothing to do with the people that cover them.
Why are they so in love with controlling that though? Like just control what you can control. I mean, it's their fucking motto, for crying out loud.
It's everybody's motto in the NFL. Why does everybody? I don't know. They think they're, and it's not only the Eagles, but they think it's CIA level subterfuge. But Nick's taking it way too far. Like he doesn't. Again, I go back to the cowbell question. What the fuck does a cowbell have to do with anything? You know, that is, we talk about layups.
Well, the flower didn't have to do anything either, and that got used again. I'm just saying, I'm just trying to look at Nick's point of view. I think he's at the point where anything I talk about, whether it's a cowbell or under center, is going to somehow be used against me. So I'm just not going to give anything on anything anymore. I'm going Marshall.
Oh, I agree. I don't disagree. That's his process. Look, I learned this from Joe Torre, speaking of the Yankees, who's like, you know, you can do whatever you want as a head coach. It's your team. You can do whatever you want. I'm not, and in fact, I've said, you know what? With the competitive advantage stuff, I've even said, and I've told the Eagles, hey, it's bullshit, but if he believes it, that's fine. He's the head coach. I'm cool with that. But Joe Torre said, and it always stuck with me, like, if you develop good relationships with the people that cover you, you'll get the benefit of the doubt. And this is a human nature thing more than anything. Right. I'm not saying he's got to kiss our ass. He's got to do this. It's human nature. Right,
but in a way, you guys are in control of a lot of the narrative around the team and the coach and everything like that.
Well, it's just common sense. If you develop, and he has a good relationship with most of us, but you know, the more you shut down, you know, people aren't going to give you the benefit of the doubt. It's just you're making your own job tougher, in my estimation. Now, you know, we're going to write what we're going to write, and if they play poorly, we're going to write they're playing poorly. If they write well, we're going to write they're playing well. I'm not talking about talk shows. I'm not talking about anything. I'm talking about the people, the Monday press conference people, right. Which I said, which is the core group. There's no radio people. There's no nothing, you know, just the core people. And he's shutting down. I don't think that's a good thing for the fan base. I don't think it's a good thing for the team. I don't think it's a good thing for the players, which we don't get information on injuries and things like that.
It seems there's two types of fans, John. It seems that there's people who want honest answers to questions, and it seems that there's people who
there definitely is.
Well, hate the media so bad that they're like, exactly. Yeah, go Nick, yeah, fuck the media. You know, we have plenty of them in our chat right now. And then you have, somebody like this who says
which is fine.
fans deserve real answers. I don't know. I think I fall right in the middle. I understand. I'd like more answers, but how much of it do you think is Nick versus the organization? Because I think it's the organization.
Well, Nick's gotten progressively worse as they've gotten progressively better. So I think it's more Nick than the organization.
This team is weird about narratives, though.
Well, yeah, I mean, when I first noticed it was the Doug Peterson era, so it's been going. It's not like he's the only one who does this. He takes it to a higher degree, but when Darren Sproles tore his hamstring, like all we got was he had a hamstring. And then all of a sudden, 2 weeks turned into 4 weeks, turned into 6 weeks, turned into 8 weeks. And you got all the fans saying, this guy won't get back on the field. How long does it take to get a hamstring? Then he finally gets back on the field. And we find out he tore his hamstring. So, yeah, and this is, for anybody who's known Darren Sproles, he pound for pound, maybe the strongest player on the Eagles at the time. He's a tough guy. He's not. But, people were questioning him not getting back on the field, similar to AJ in a little sense. Well, he's not hurt. He's just upset. You're creating issues for your players. I think they don't see that for whatever reason. And it's not helpful, and it's not helping them.
Is it making you lose your respect for Nick?
First of all, my respect for Nick doesn't matter, but I know. I think he's very. I think anybody who's listened to the show, I think he's a very good coach. I think people. I always generally defend him.
Yeah,
the people are like, what does he do?
I mean, I get comments here all the time that you're a mouthpiece for the organization because you defend Nick and Kevin Petula.
Yeah, well, exactly. So so I think that if anything, that proves my objectivity, because I'm not happy with the way he's performing his job personally with us, but I recognize he's what he is as a coach, and he's got a million plates in the air like Red Panda. I compared it to for the Chinese acrobat fans, and I think it's wearing on him. And that's why I said he's got to find his Steve Kerr joy, which he always quotes to the players. Doesn't look like he's having fun.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. It does not look like Nick is having fun. I agree with that completely. Why do you think it's impacting the players negatively?
Well, I just
explained the question and the stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, there's no. How many people asked you, is AJ faking an injury, basically? Which he's not. But if I say it, they'll say, "Oh, he's being a mouthpiece for the." I mean, I don't care. I'm going to tell whether he answers questions or not. I'm going to tell you if he's doing a good job, doing a poor job, doing a decent job, doing a mediocre job. This is not going to have an effect. But I will point out that he's giving less and less.
It's turning into sports is turning into politics in a way. It's like whatever administration is in is going to feed you a crock of bullshit about their administration, and that's just how it's going to go.
Well, that part of it's true, but he used to get into the football wonk discussions and at least give you something from that perspective. Now he's shut that down. And again, maybe he's just tired for whatever reason. There's a million things. I always say he's got young kids. He's probably not sleeping because of that. But he doesn't seem happy to me. And we all talked about, the most miserable 10-1 team of all time. Well, similar to Brian Daboll being emotional on the sidelines about a call going the other way. Often teams are a reflection of their head coach. And if they're a reflection of their head coach, he better stop the misery act or the Eeyore act. Like AJ's got the Eeyore act going even better with the hoodie, and he looks depressed. And
Yeah.
it's like, something's going on.
Does Jalen kind of have that too, do you?
A little bit, yeah. A little bit of Eeyore. A lot of Eeyores on this team.
Vic is a grump. As great as Vic is, he's a grumpy.
No, Vic's not an Eeyore. Vic is, he's grumpy, but Eeyore is more of like,
right.
I'm tired and
That's funny, man. Yeah, I hear you. I mean, I get your point. I think I get all the perspectives here, but I could understand why you feel like you've never done anything to unfairly cover Nick, and it's almost like he's punishing you guys. But I don't know. I think
it's not about punishing. Again, take us out of it. The point is, you're not, as a fan, you guys aren't getting the information you should be getting.
Yeah,
and then you're making discussions like that poor guy. Like you can give any opinion you want, but if you don't have information, is that valuable? It can be if you don't care. Like the guy who said, well, the guy who wants to judge play calls yesterday. Yeah. Hey, Pete Carroll made a bad call in the Super Bowl. He didn't even call the damn play. He doesn't know that. But can I judge that? I said, sure, you can judge it. But he didn't call the play. So how valuable is that judgment? Like, if you don't have that information and you're out there saying AJ is this, AJ's that, how valuable is that? I don't know. Some people is valuable. The people who want actual information, it's not valuable. AJ's hurt. You wouldn't know that from the Eagles.
Yeah. I get it. A lot of people go here, and I think there's a very easy explanation for this, but I'll see what you have to say, John. Xander, why does Saban call the media rat poison? I don't think it has anything to do with what John's talking about, but that's just my opinion. I'll give you it. John, what's your thought on that?
Well, one of the things that people, again, Saban calls rat poison positive comments as much as negative.
Yeah, he's not talking about media contingency covering the game. He's talking about what the narratives, both positive and negative, do mentally to the players. Exactly. Which, to John's point, whether Nick answers a question or not, those narratives are still out there. That's kind of John's point. When you put out narratives or you don't give any clarity on AJ, now everybody speculates everything. Your players are reading this new version of rat poison, if both of them are rat poison, and that doesn't help either. So I don't really think that's the right comment, Dabney.
No, and typical, Nick Saban will, also as simple as the biggest fans propping you up. Oh, you're the greatest. Right. He thinks that's rat poison. So it's not just media. And there's certainly rat poison in the media. I'm not dismissing that. But again, even if fans do the same thing the Eagles do, and that's conflate every single media member together. And there's a huge difference between insert your favorite beat writer versus your favorite WIP host, the biggest gossip columnist on WIP. They conflate it to being the same thing. If you want to compare, we'll use Zach because he asked the innocuous cowbell question to, again, whoever, the Howard Eskins of the world, or I'll use people who aren't on the air anymore, or the Mike Missinellis of the world, or the Josh Innes's of the world. Go right ahead, but they're not the same.
Good stuff. Interesting commentary. Nick, I think I do agree with you that Nick looks haggard. All right. He looks haggard.
We did yesterday. I mean, that's.
Well, I think he always does now. I mean, I think you're right about the president comp. You know that famous picture of Obama when he got into office, and the picture of Obama when he left the office, and they say you can do that with all the presidents, kind of.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. But I mean, he's, like I said, he's got the third winningest coach in the Super Bowl era. I mean, if you can't have fun with this, what's it going to be like when, the cycle comes back, and you're just with everybody else in sort of a mediocre to average team. If you can't have joy now, again, maybe he's just had a bad day. But struck me that he just went on for 10 minutes or whatever it was and said absolutely nothing.
Yeah, and it's funny. I mean, a lot of people think, hey, it's a good thing he doesn't give you anything because it's rat poison. Well, I got news for you guys. The rat poison is at a greater, it exists more now today than ever. More now today than ever. Because players grew up, John talks about the way people grow up all the time. These players grew up with social media, John. They grew up going on there today. I mean, that's what they're going to be. AJ Brown's 28 years old. He sees everything on social media. I promise you guys he does. He's posting himself. So whether they give John anything or not, I don't think that gets rid of the rat poison.
Well, I'll tell you what, there wouldn't have been any rat poison for me yesterday. He created the rat poison for me.
Here's Pumper. Let's go to some supers here. We'll get to a break. Pumper says, damn, MFers can't look tired anymore. Sometimes MFers get tired. We falling for the banana in the tailpipe here.
Yeah, well,
Oh, Pumper, you always got some shit.
Bumper's just he's taking the contrarian view.
Yeah,
He can. I've already explained. It might be, he's got young kids. Could be a million different things. If you wanted to listen, you would have heard that. The banana in the tailpipe is take Ace Bailey over BJ Edgecombe. That's the banana in the tailpipe.
Clap back on Pumper. Look at that, Pump. BJ Edgecombe, I think he put up 26 last night, Pump. This kid is cooking. Where's Ace Bailey? He might be on the
bench. Check the bench.
In Utah. Is that where he is?
Check the bench. Check the bench in Utah.
Yeah. Brando says, on the injury stuff, it's organizational. Remember Peterson getting asked about Sproles? Yeah, John brought that up.
Yeah, I already brought that up. Well, definitely I brought up how he's Mekhi Becton, Howie's a bit of a bully when it comes to injuries. Now, Mekhi Becton basically, when he hurt his finger last year, showed us the X-ray of the injury. The 6'8", 360-pound guy can do whatever the F he wants. So yeah, but they try to limit, especially with lesser players, they try to limit any information on injuries as much as possible. That's true. That's an organizational thing. I'm just saying organizationally. So if you don't want to blame Nick, all right, blame Howie, blame Jeffrey, blame whoever you want. But the point is, it's not helping the players. And I brought up the Sproles incident specifically because a bunch of fans were questioning Darren Sproles, of all people, for not fighting to get back from a simple hamstring injury, not knowing it was a torn hamstring. He probably should have missed the season. And again, a bunch of fans are out there this week. AJ's not hurt. Well, how the F do you know if AJ's not hurt? But a bunch of you were out there saying it. Probably because you heard some rat poison from some goofball. Whatever. Doesn't help the players.
Here's the deal. Nick has a fever and the prescription is more cowbell.
Yeah, it's the great Will Ferrell sketch. But seriously, I mean, the question was, the Eagles put up, and by the way, the Eagles put up these clips. And that, the post-game talk with the players, and he gave out cowbells, as I mentioned, to Saquon and Tank for going over 100 yards. First time since 2013. They've had two running backs go over 100 yards. Why do you give him cowbells? I don't know. I wish I could tell you because he wouldn't answer the question. Not that it's the most innocuous question in the history of mankind. Doesn't matter. Wouldn't have asked the question. Don't care, to be honest, why he gave them cowbells. Easiest answer ever. Because, insert the reason, move on. That'd be it. Couldn't even do that. But then, one of the things, and believe it or not, I got some shit. Zach Bond was mic'd up the other day, not whatever game it was, it was the Minnesota game. And he called, he has sort of a big brother, little brother relationship with Jihad. He's kind of like a little, I don't want to say bullyish, but, he's a wise ass. And he's a good dude. Zach Bond is a tremendous dude. But he gives Zach Bond some of the business, like, a vet, making fun, like Brandon. Brandon did it for years. It's not a big deal. You tweak a guy, and he called him dumbass on the mic'd up thing. And like I asked about it, and people are like, what are you? I'm like, what? You put it up. And by the way, I know the relationship. I'm the one who can explain the relationship. Sort of big brother, little brother thing. He loves the guy. He's just giving him a little shit. I mean, it's weird. It's weird how much control everybody wants in this league. Not just the Eagles, but everybody.
The Eagles are bad with it too. There's Alexander. I love when John goes on these rants. And no, Nick should be a little more open. Part of his job is talking to the media. Don't make their jobs harder. I agree, Alexander, but I understand. Perspective.
Got nothing to do with my job. I'll get it some other way. Like, I know AJ's hurt. I don't know AJ's hurt because of the Eagles. I'll get it some other way. It's got nothing to do with me. It's about making his job easier, about making him less miserable, believe it or not. Some of the things are self-inflicted. Like I'll say right off the bat, AJ Brown self-inflicts some of these things by his actions on social media. Well, when it comes to some of the narratives, like that one specifically, the Eagles have the self-inflicted wound by not being a little more forthcoming on what's going on. That's it. That's all I'm talking about. And there's some questions that are easy to answer. Like when I give you a layup, hey, what is Nakobe Dean, his leadership and, what he's went through, going through that rehab? What has it meant to the team? What does it mean? That's the easiest question ever. Read his answer. Nothing.
Here's A-Team. Stopped watching Sirianni pressers a while ago. It only pisses me off. I only watch the coordinators and maybe some players. Shouldn't have them, in my opinion. Well, they need them, but.
Well, they're the only reason they have them is because they're mandated by the NFL, or I think they would get rid of them. But yeah, I mean, and I'll be down there later this morning for Vic Fangio, and you'll ask Vic a question, he'll answer the question. And guess what? The sky doesn't fall. And Vic has been pretty damn successful with this defense, and the sky isn't falling.
No, in fact, to your point, the narratives get corrected on the defense because of Vic's openness about some things. Here's B Pumper. Not happening, fellas. How are we going to pull a parenting 101? We have that at home. We have Nolan and BG at home. No trade for you.
Yeah, I know. That ain't good enough, is my point. Healthy Nolan Smith.
Nolan is an interesting contract discussion in the future.
Yeah, it is. I'm not going overboard with that contract. And at this stage, I bet they wait it out. They don't go for the early extension. Now, if he comes back and plays lights out, maybe that changes it. I don't see that being as pricey as people assumed it would be at the start of the season. I think it's more a wait and see approach.
We'll see. Pump, appreciate it. A couple more super chats here. Here's Brando. Thanks again, Brando. He says, it is awful they do it. AJ was getting his knee drained every week too last season, and we were led to believe issues were all with Jalen.
Good point. Yep, he was. Which a couple of us said he had some knee issues. Not to the point of, getting it drained every week, but yeah, it doesn't help the players. Does not help the players. So many players fight through it. And by the way, I mean, that is a league-wide problem. That is not just the Eagles' problem. The Eagles are a little bit worse, but that is a league-wide problem. Look at Carson Wentz. Look what happened to Carson Wentz.
We got to talk about that.
Dude looked like shit. Why is he even out there? I still don't know.
I don't either. And they kept him in. I mean, halftime, everything. They kept him in the whole freaking game. Is Kevin O'Connell going to have to answer for that or no?
I think he should. Now, by no means do I think they were forcing him to play. I mean, Carson's a tough guy.
Yeah, I get it.
But again, if you leave it up to, similar with Landon here, if you leave it up to Landon, he's playing. Period.
Sometimes you got to protect them from themselves.
Yeah. And that's the instance where, Carson should not have been out there. But, and so, again, you're not helping the player. Why is he playing so shit? Well, he's not a great quarterback at this stage. I'm not trying to, but I mean, now he's not that bad as he was against the Eagles and Chargers.
Adds a little bit of nuance to the conversation. Context.
And I always bring up Nate Gary here, who fans hated Nate Gary. And the coaches, Jim Schwartz and Ken Plagiol, loved the guy. And I'm like, what is the disconnect here? Because he wasn't a very good player. And they loved him. And then it comes out after the fact, he played a whole season with a sports hernia. Shouldn't have been out there, but they didn't have anything else. These were the dark days of the linebacker room. There were no Zach Bonds and Jahad Campbells and N'Kobe Deans. It was Nick Gary was one of your best two linebackers, and he was out there playing every week, even though he shouldn't have played, and people would just shit on the guy. No, why? They have no context. Not that they wouldn't, a lot of people would shit on him anyway. A lot of people shit on Carson anyway, but when you do realize what they go through, to the more logical people, it's going to bring valuable context and say, oh, okay. But, you're watching those games saying, this guy's awful. Why is he out there? Well, they have, and what is that? Speaking of Carson, what does that tell you about JJ fucking McCarthy? My God. And they have a young quarterback. I forget his name, undrafted guy. So they don't think he's ready.
I'm starting to think Kevin O'Connell might be overrated.
You think? Well, it depends. I find it very hard to believe that Kevin O'Connell didn't know that Sam Darnold was better, didn't know that Daniel Jones
that might have been organizational.
Yeah, I think that's the GM who took him, 10th overall. And, if you miss at that pick, that's going to have a negative impact on you. But, boy, it's having a negative impact on Kwesi anyway. So that was just a generationally poor personnel evaluation, considering what they had in the building and passed over for JJ McCarthy.
Good stuff. Brando, appreciate it. Big Dom checks in.
Big Dom?
not that Big Dom. Big Dom Shiano checks in.
That Big Dom is giving Angelo's cheesesteaks and
yeah, shout out to him. That was great the way they responded
Cam
to that.
Scatterboo.
Yeah. Cam put out a nice message on Twitter. Big Dom was also at the Sixer game last night with Cooper DeJean. Big Dom Shiano says, can Myles Garrett be a possibility once again?
No.
Man, I would do a lot to get him to Philly.
Yeah, it'd be nice.
That dude is. Remember when we said
remember
when coming off a Super Bowl, John, we said, I don't want to give up Nolan Smith.
Don't put me in that. Don't put me in that we conversation. No, I laughed at that.
I'm not putting you in that conversation.
Yeah,
that is what I would call an all-time bad take, and I might have been a part of that to some extent. All right, I apologize for that, folks. Marcel says, John, do you ever get upset when a coworker in the media cuts you off while you're trying to ask a question during a coach-player interview, and afterwards, did you guys have to have a few words? Good question.
Occasionally, I don't get pissed off. Occasionally, people get pissed off when I cut them off, which I kind of shut down pretty quickly.
Yeah, well, I could see you being good at cutting people off. It's one of those things you either got to speak up and get your question in, or you're not going to get a question in. Kind of in some.
Yeah, it's very competitive. It's very intimidating to the younger people.
Yeah,
I always tell the Shield story, the Shield Capote story. Shield worked in Philadelphia for years. Then he went out to Seattle to cover the Seahawks, and he was telling the story. He was at his first Pete Carroll press conference. And I understand, if you know Pete Carroll, Pete's the most laid-back person in the world, number one. Plus, he, smokes a lot of you-know-what. But so Shield's like used to the Philadelphia mentality where you're on the edge of the seat. You got to battle to get your question in. And he blurts out like he's in Philadelphia a question. And Pete Carroll's like, why are you yelling, man? Because in Seattle, there's probably like 5 guys there. He's like, why are you yelling?
All right.
He was just used to being in Philadelphia. Yeah, it's a lot different here. It's very competitive. But no, I'm not going to fight people. And, I am professional.
Wasn't there a big famous story?
There was
Les Bowen, right?
It was Les and
McLean, I think it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, they like
you don't want to do that, and if you take that, there's one guy I don't like that I will leave to myself, and the only one guy who ironically tries to be a bully, which is funny because he's the least bully person imaginable, but it's mainly with younger reporters.
Yeah. Gotta ask Caden Steele that. Caden, do you ever get intimidated in the press room to get your question in? Be a good question for Caden Steele. I might have to ask him that one time. Good stuff, everybody. Appreciate the super chats today. We're gonna take a quick commercial break. We're close to the end of the show here, and then we'll kind of put our final touches on the show today. Appreciate you all being here. Hit that like button. We should get up to 200 likes plus today. Hopefully, hit that like button. We'll be right back in 3 minutes.
Ignite your nights with free live entertainment daily, only at Live Casino and Hotel Philadelphia's Center Bar. 7 days a week, enjoy some of the region's top party bands, performers, and DJs as they take the stage in the heart of the casino action. Great cocktails, live music, and lively moments. It's all happening at Center Bar at Live Casino and Hotel Philadelphia. Visit livecasinophilly.com for more details and the complete list of upcoming events. Must be 21 or older. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
This is Eric. When he got injured in a car accident, he called Morgan & Morgan. He not only gets a lawyer, he gets trial lawyers like Sam and Jessica who are in it to win it. He gets his own investigators with briefcases, leather ones. And if you ever have questions, our customer service folks keep things rolling. Injured? We're your army. Morgan & Morgan, America's largest injury law firm.
Welcome to the Jet Setters and the High Rollers, to the Shot Takers and the Tastemakers. Welcome to the Viewfinders, the Thrill Seekers, and the Night Owls. Welcome to everything you could possibly want on one 5-mile island. Welcome to the Wildwoods. Book your stay today.
In our hometown, we all look out for each other. We go the extra mile to lend a helping hand. We step up to keep our communities going strong. And at Independence Blue Cross, we're here to keep you going strong. We've been deeply rooted in our communities for more than 85 years. And that connection to members has earned us our spot as the #1 health insurer in the region. So while you look out for your neighbors, know IBX is always looking out for you.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on Sports Grid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on Sports Grid.
EAGLES. Eagles.
Welcome back in, everybody, to a Tuesday edition of Birds 365 here on JAKIB Sports. Don't forget to hit the like button on the show today. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel if you're not already. John, we've had some great numbers on Birds 365 this season. I want to thank everybody for that. So don't forget to hit the like button. Keep helping us grow here on the show, and a shout out as well to our podcast listeners who don't tune in on YouTube. They tune in on the podcast. So we appreciate all of you guys over there too. John, final question of the show today will be about QB1, Jalen Hurts. A lot of up and down conversation, something we kind of talked about earlier in the show today, where it's high and low, and you're more in the middle, John, or you more like to stay there. Jalen's another guy that kind of goes to those highs and lows and has conversations around that. With coming off of 2 high games now for Jalen, has he kind of quelled the waters in your opinion? I mean, how do you kind of see what Jalen has done the last 2 weeks in the context of the whole season?
Well, obviously that's an uptick. I do think, by no means does that mean you're going to have consistency from week to week in the passing game. I think over a longer period, you're still going to see those 140, 150-yard gains, and maybe you turn them into 180 if you're really clicking. I still think they're coming just because of the style of football the Eagles play. Not necessarily that it's even a bad thing. When I look at Jalen Hurts, I think number one, one interception, 2 turnovers, I believe, is where we're at. And I think he's got generated 20 touchdowns and he's turned the football over twice. I mean, you're going to win a lot of games if that continues. And they've won a lot of games, and that's part of it. Now, there's a give and take to being that ball security conscious, as we've talked about over the years. And it does somewhat at times limit explosive plays. So that's what you're giving up. But I mean, that's the Eagles' belief. And I can tell you I'll be walking into that building in about an hour or so. And it's all over the place. Ball security, takeaways, giveaways. That's what they care most about. And he protects the football better than anybody else in this league playing the quarterback position.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and he's doing it better than he ever has as a guy who basically takes better care of it than anybody else. And this year it's gotten even to a higher degree. I mean, we're up to, let's see, 215 passes, 1 interception, over 215 passes. And that was the Cordell Blott play at MetLife Stadium. 0.5 interception percentage. So Jalen's been the starter since 2021. It was 2.1 interception percentage, 1.3 when they went to the Super Bowl in 2022. 2.8 when they had the collapse. He was forced to do more things, threw it 538 times. So it went up to 2.8, still very good. 24, 1.4, and they go back to the Super Bowl and win it. And this year it's 0.5. 0.5. He doesn't turn it over.
I think that's why he gets back into the MVP conversation so quick, John. He can have a bad half of football, bad week of football, and 2 great games, and the numbers look great.
Yeah, well, certainly the winning numbers look great. The winning percentage, the touchdown to interception ratio, the touchdown to turnover ratio, all of that looks great. Generally, to win the MVP, though, and that's where he's up against it for people that desperately want him to win an MVP. Those you need the higher volume numbers to win that. And I don't know if they're going to be there, at least under this incarnation of the offense, but I don't think that matters to him, and that's a good thing. I'm sure nobody would dislike being the MVP, but I don't think that's the main goal, as Jalen, make the main thing the main thing. I think that's a good thing that he doesn't worry too much about that. I think he'd rather have another Super Bowl MVP than a NFL MVP. You're muted, Zander.
I remember when that video came out of him on the field at the Super Bowl, right after they won, somebody hollered in his ear. I think it was his media or PR guy who said, your Super Bowl MVP, Jalen. And he looked back at him and said, Super Bowl champ. So I think he cares more about that. But I do think all that stuff might come for Jalen. We will see. I think they're in a good spot offensively, John, or at least they're showing signs of getting to the right spot. Like you always said, there's not many transitive properties in the league. I think there's a little more than you do, but I do think they got to keep putting the puzzle pieces together, and they're close. They're close. They still got a lot of talent, John. That's for dang sure.
Oh yeah, I mean they tend to out talent people a lot. And I think you saw that this week, probably for the first time this year, which was disappointing.
Does
But
Jalen
you look
focused to you this year?
more focused. No, he's always laser focused. No, I haven't. It hasn't been worse. He's always the same guy. It's kind of eerie. I think he's always been that guy. But I don't think they were the beauty of I don't think they were playing well during that 5-2 start. Really say 4-2. They played pretty well in Minnesota. But I don't think they were playing well during that 4-2 start, but they were still 4-2. So that's a positive sign. And again, they won 7 games without outgaining the opponent until they just blitzed the Giants. That to me was a troubling statistic because it just doesn't happen. To the point since coming into that game last week, since 1940, so it's been a while. No team that has gone 7 straight games to start the season, being outgained ever made the Super Bowl. It's just a bad trend. So it was very good that they turned that around. So the point I'm trying to make is they were not playing well and they were 5-2. That should be the scary thought to the NFL.
No doubt. Johnny Mac, what's on the agenda today? The coordinators don't normally speak going into the bye week, right? They changed it this year or what?
It depends on the year. This year they're going to talk after the game. I think, sometimes they asked us. They didn't ask us this time. Sometimes we'd rather have them the week after because,
Will you not get them next week now?
It's a good question. I don't know. I don't have the schedule. I'm sure we'll talk about that. I'll probably have more information about that. I don't see why we wouldn't get them. So getting them twice is better. you're not going to get many questions, obviously, about the Packers this week, because it's so far down the road. So it's more going to be about what happened in the Giants game, which was all positive. So maybe that's why they're giving it. That's part of it. It's hard to criticize the team for the way they performed against the Giants. And that's both versus last year when they had that unbelievably poor game in Tampa. They're coming off their best game. So that, just as I say this, that's probably the reason why we're getting them today.
Yeah, interesting. All right, Johnny Mac, good stuff, man. Your final thoughts here on a Tuesday edition. A little ripping Nick Sirianni today I thought was necessary. Good job.
Well, I don't even consider it ripping. I'm just pointing out his own behavior, and I don't think it's good for him. Now, other people will call it ripping. I get it, but hey, he's the one out there talking. Anybody can listen to these things. You can take your own opinions on it, but he didn't give anybody anything. If you're watching that as a fan, you got no information. So I don't think that helps Nick Sirianni. I don't think it helps the Eagles.
I agree. Some people don't want to know, John. They're just like, I just want to see the team play. I'm like, I that's not how I am, but I get it. John, good show today, brother. We'll talk to you tomorrow on a Wednesday edition of Birds 365. Thank you, brother.
All right. Thanks, all.
All right, thanks, Jim Mac. There's Johnny Mac. John McMullen here on Birds 365. Great show today, everybody. Appreciate everybody for being here today. Still plenty of stuff to talk about in Eagle Land as we go into the bye week now for the Birds. What's going on, everybody in the chat? All right, sometimes I like those shows where we don't have a guest, and me and John can just kind of talk about a bunch of shit. Sometimes I like those shows. I understand people like guests, but I do sometimes I appreciate those shows where I get to talk to John about some stuff, because when you have two guests, you get like 25 minutes a show to talk to John. I'm like, sometimes I don't even get all the takes I need from John. So I think we talked on some good stuff here. Mrs. Sparks, what's going on? Paparo, what's going on? Roll Philly, what's up, my brother? All right. The summary of what J-Mac was saying about Nick is that he hates the way he's handling the media, not giving the media anything anymore. He doesn't think it's helping the players. He doesn't think it's doing what Nick is trying to do with it. And it allows other narratives to flourish in the media. Roll Philly. Point example would be A.J. Brown, who missed the game because of a hamstring, but because the Eagles will not say anything to the reporters who've been honest to the team, not talking about talk show guys, he thinks that those narratives are negative for the team and for the players and for himself. Again, example being people thinking A.J. Brown skipping the game because of he's faking an injury or he's on the trade block. He thinks more clarity there would actually help. But, part of it, I get it, is John is a reporter, so he has his perspective and other people have their perspective. And I get it. Brandon says you need to bring on some low-tier guests. Brandon, we're doing it, brother. Relax. You got any names in mind? Drop them in the chat. I'll reach out. It's not as easy as you guys think. Most of these dudes are like, I want money. I'm like, bro, I don't have extra money in the budget to pay you to come on my show. I really don't. If you want to come on, great. And I'm not going to I don't care. If you want money, you're entitled to ask for it, but I'm not going to pay you for it. I'm not going to pay you for coming on. All right. Lord Brunson doesn't like coming on anymore, Original. He used to come on Cilio's show years back. He would come on. I think he's been on there probably 3 or 4 times. Original Phil. I don't know. Go type in Lord Brunson on JAKIB Sports. All right. Look at my boy Vince dropping a super chat. Thanks for watching our JAKIB content. Good comment, Vince. Good comment, brother. I'll have to reimburse you for your super chat. All right. Big Trag. That is repulsive, dude. That is literally, I don't even know how you get McDonald's points. I'm not a McDonald's guy, but that sounds like it's repulsive. All right. That sounds like it's repulsive. Big Mike, I agree with that, by the way. All right. Stress-free weekend. Yeah, it is, Travis. But Brandon says, I agree, Z. I think honesty is a core virtue and it should be applied. Brandon, that's one of my life goals. One of my life, North Stars. Be honest. I hate dishonesty. I think lying, I think being above the surface doesn't do anything for anybody. And a lot of times, Brandon, you'll see people who have good intentions and they think not being honest is actually the right way to protect somebody or to, to have the best outcome or to keep the peace. And my opinion is actually straight the opposite, Brandon. When you're not honest with somebody in whatever regard, relationship, life, personal, kids, whatever the case may be, I think it allows the wrong things to fester for too much time. And those could have an even more negative effect in the long term. That's how I view it. I've always viewed being honest is the best way to be, even if it's negative or even if it's tough to hear. That is terrible, Zay. Big Trag, I wouldn't know, but I'm happy you have hopefully some free McDonald's. Free McDonald's coming your way. This dude's got the whole McDonald's. You're paying the whole McDonald's staff salary, dude. Roll Philly Z, I'm getting the feeling Howie isn't. Me too, Roll Philly. Same feeling, my friend. All right. B. Preston says, yeah, I must tip my hat to you, bro. Thank you, bro. I appreciate that. Coming on air and talking ball after Kurt Warner isn't. No, it's not. And I think you had a great segment, the Jeff Stoutland point with Brett Toth was spot on. Thank you, bro. I appreciate that. Kurt Warner was excellent yesterday. For those who missed it, definitely go check it out. Kurt Warner was pretty awesome. Pretty awesome. Roll Philly says, sometimes I struggle with being honest without being sometimes being honest is being an asshole. But instead of, so people shy, and I get it, Roll Philly, believe me, it's a common thing. But you know how many times I've heard in my life that I'm an asshole or that I can be an asshole? But it's always because I've always tried to be honest, especially with the people that I love. My fiance, my sisters and my brothers, my parents, all the people closest to me in life. I'm always brutally honest. And sometimes there's shock value to it. I don't want to out anybody, but there is somebody in my life who didn't grow up with an honest background. My mom's 100% Italian. I grew up in a family where if something's off in my household, you don't walk on eggshells. It's what the fuck is the problem? That's how it is in my house. It's always been that way in my household with my parents, with my siblings, with everybody. That's how I grew up. There's other people in my life who grew up the complete opposite. Everybody walks on eggshells. Nobody wants to address any of the real problems. And then the real problems sit there and they stew and they boil like a pot of water. And then the water starts coming over the side of the thing, the side of the pot. And everyone's like, hey, what the hell happened? What do you mean? Nobody addressed the issues. Nobody addressed the issues as they were happening. Being honest is the way to be. Joel, you ask my mother that question. Ask my mother that question. She'll tell you. She'll tell you, Joel. I don't lie to you guys. I tell you, I try and be honest in everything. I'm no joke. All right. If my mom makes a shitty meal, I'm the first one to tell her. All right. Brian says, no, yeah, I grew up the opposite, unfortunately. Nobody ever talked about their problem. Yeah, well, that's very common, my friend. That's very common. And I don't mean it as any disrespect to the way somebody grew up. It's just my perspective. It's just my perspective. I've seen it. I've also seen that rear its head in ugly ways where everybody, walks on eggshells because you can't address any of the issues. And then those issues end up being 5 to 10 times bigger than they ever needed to be because nobody wanted to address it. There's an elephant in the fucking room. Are you going to look at the elephant and say, hey, there's an elephant there, we should address that? Or are you going to act like it doesn't exist? It was always an obvious answer to me. Address it. Address what's there. Why wait? Why let it fester? So I get it. But, I understand the differences and the way some people, my house is like that too. We also yelled about everything. My wife is like, why are you yelling? I just said, because I'm Italian. Well, I understand that more than you know, Fly Eagles Fly. All right. That's the way my family is for sure. My dad always says about my family, he always says, we might fight hard sometimes because that's what sometimes honesty will do. You'll fight hard, but man, do we love hard too, So The burden of man. That's true, Brandon. That's a good part of it. That's an interesting perspective as well, Brandon. I actually think that that's a very real thing that exists for men. Honestly, I really do, Brandon. All right. Z, I'm similar. My family always aired everything out, but other people weren't raised that way. So I think Roll Philly 100% it catches them off guard. 100%. I'm telling you, sometimes I'm around people and they're just like, what the fuck is this guy saying anything? I'm like, I'm not saying anything. I'm just saying what's on my mind. Nice lid, Z. Thanks, dude. Appreciate it. I like these lids. You know, I'm losing my hair. I got to order a smaller size. I always had a big head, all right? I've always had a big fucking head. Now I'm like, I got to downsize my hats because my hair is so damn thin. I got to get rid of this hair, folks. I'm so sick of talking about this stupid fucking head of hair. All right. Dirty air, believe me, I've seen it many times. Many times. And Keith says, in my family, when we identified elephants, it turned into World War III. I won't say that my household does not have some of that. All right. It certainly does. Ryan says Philly 500 coming in hot tomorrow after that. Oh, 500's coming in hot. You know. I'm Race. I'm kind of excited about it. I won't lie to you. I'm kind of excited about it. But you know, I told you guys, it's always the women, right? It's always the freaking women. You know, I show remember the picture I showed you of AI that made me bald? I show that to my mom and she's like, "Oh, that is fucking awful." That's what my mom says. So again, about being honest, my mom says, "That is awful." She says you need to be taking peptides and biotin and you can save your hair. You can save your hair. My mom goes, "Genetic hair loss is a farce." I'm like, "Mom, what are you fucking talking about? My dad is stone cold bald." A perfect example of my household being honest. I kid you not. My mom looked at the picture and said, "Oh, that is fucking awful." That is literally, she dropped the F-bomb and everything. She goes, "That is fucking awful." I literally rolled on the floor laughing. I'm like, damn, mom. But that's because she wants me to try and save the hair. Her whole thing is like, you don't do anything to try and save it. I'm like, save it? My hair is gone. All right. Classic, though. Pretty classic. Brandon, what's up, Brandon? What % do you put on Brown trade before beginning of next season? And if so, what would a return look like? Brandon, good question. I don't think it's happening in the season. I think a fair conversation is going to be the offseason. So it's like, where do they go from there, if anything? I don't think it's as much as people think, Brandon. I really don't. How old is AJ Brown? Oh, by the way, Dank, are you in here? Dank should be in here, right? Dank, I got to ask you a question in a second. Remind me to get there. I got a question to ask you because I haven't followed along and I should have looked into it more, but I'm going to. AJ Brown age. All right, so he's 28. He'll be 29 in June of next year. All right. He'll be 29 in June of next year. He's making $32 million. Like, I don't even know if you're getting back a first-round pick. In fact, I don't think you're getting back a first-round pick. And if Roll Philly, let me read this comment. 100, Roll Philly, you are spot on. If they did want to maximize the value of return, I don't think they'd wait for the offseason. Davante Adams trade to I mean, when the Raiders traded Davante Adams to the Jets last year, they got a conditional third-round pick. Now, Davante Adams was 31, so a little different. He was older, but a conditional 3 is what you got for Davante Adams last year. So maybe you get a conditional 2, maybe? I don't know. AJ AJ's heavy ages and dog years. That is fucking hilarious. Oh, man. All right, guys. Howard Eskin had a take yesterday. I think some of you might be interested in, or I'm curious to hear your thoughts, because I was thinking about it. And when he first said it, I was like, I don't agree. But the more I thought about it, I could understand where he was coming from. Howard Eskin's take was that Devontae Smith is actually a more talented receiver than A.J. Brown. Does anybody think that that's crazy? Does anybody think there's merit to that or truth to that? Let's talk it out a little bit. Oh, wait, real quick, before we go there. Dank, so what are the Blazers doing right now? Is Chauncey Billups still coaching on the sideline? Is Chauncey Billups still coaching on the sideline? My bad, Dank. I forgot to get to it. Like, what are they doing with that whole thing? Is he just acting like, is he still coaching? Is he on a leave of absence? Is he arrested? Like, where is the idea with that? Or where are they with that process? Brandon says, no, I haven't followed up with that at all since it came out. He's on leave. Okay, that's kind of what I thought he would be. All right, so Chauncey Billups is on leave. Okay, so Tiago Splitter's coaching right now, is serving as the head coach. Okay. Tiago Splitter is the interim. All right, interesting. I don't know what's going to happen with that. That whole thing feels like a can of worms. All right. Feels like a can of worms. All right, let's go to the Devontae AJ combo. Put your mentions in the chat. I didn't see them all come through. Devontae Smith versus AJ Brown. Who's the better receiver? And let's try and look at it as objective as we can. I think there's some merit to saying Smitty, raw talent-wise, might be better than AJ. And hear me out. I know some people are going to say you're fucking nuts. I understand. But, like, think about the people who say Joe Burrow is a more talented player than Jalen Hurts because they're talking about the arm and the traditional quarterback skill sets that people use, right? Jalen might win more. Jalen might do other things better. Like, who's a better route runner? Like, what are the traditional metrics by which you would gauge a receiver's talent? Not talking about his output, not talking about his athleticism. I'm talking about gauging a receiver's talent. Is it hands, route running? You know, what are those things? What in your eyes are those things? Because I think Devontae Smith is a better route runner. I think Devontae Smith has better hands than A.J. Brown. Maybe not. That could probably be argued. AJ's got crazy good hands too. You heard it. You heard Smitty talk about him on a podcast recently. Dude's got he can't get the ball out of his hands. I think he's a pretty clear better route runner, Keese. I think Devontae is a much better route runner. Hands are equal. I'm good with that. AJ might have better hands, honestly. But some of the catches I've seen Smitty make are fucking crazy, dude. Some of the catches I've seen Smitty make on the sidelines are just nuts. This is an interesting one here. Preston says Smitty was born to play wide receiver. AJ is a football player. Joel, I don't know if that's true, dude. AJ gets more separation. I don't know, bro. Devontae Smith be putting moves on people. Did you guys see the video on social media yesterday of Devontae running that simple hitch route, curl route? I mean, stop route. I mean, he stopped. That corner had no fucking clue where he was. Devin says, the fact that this is a conversation means another cryptic tweet is coming. Yeah, it might have been Baldy's. I don't know. I'm not like sitting up here saying, hey, Devontae Smith clears AJ. That's not really my conversation. My conversation is more about AJ, to me, is a more physically imposing player and one that can impose his will on a game easier than Devontae Smith could. But technically speaking, like the technicality, the fundamentals of playing the position, I could see Devontae being better. Kind of because he's had to, right? He's not able to bully everybody. you know. Dirty air. Nobody's going to talk about that because obviously it was a touchdown, but you're so right. The throw to Dotson, Devontae Smith ran a route so good that the corner was literally on his ass cheeks. The corner was literally on his ass cheeks. Here's Roll Philly Z. Smitty has been a better wide receiver than AJ. He's better at every aspect of wide receiver except size. I've been banging this drum for a while. I don't know if I could say every aspect, Roll Philly, but I do hear what you're saying. Curtis says, AJ doesn't have to make those crazy catches Smith does. He just bodies you. Yeah, but Curtis, some of those catches aren't because of Smitty having to. Some of them are, throws that are high, throws that are way to the outside, throws to the sideline, throws to the back of the end zone. Here's Dank. Smitty reminds me of TJ Lockett from Seattle. Tyler Lockett, is that who you're talking about? AJ is more like DK with a bigger route tree. I think that's a good comp. I think Smitty's better than Lockett, but Lockett was always that sneaky guy who could always get behind the defense. Mrs. Sparks says, or Mr. Sparks, sorry, Mrs. I read the MRS and saw Mrs. My bad. I think you're Mr. Sparks. Is that what it is? Hands equal, route running Smith, breaking tackles AJ, toe tap equal. I give toe tap to Smitty. Stiff arm AJ, definitely. Jump ball equal. Blocking AJ when he wants to block. I don't know. Blocking's close too. I think that's a fair breakdown. Here, can you guys hear that? Car outside ripping on the. Tony says AJ is a physical wide receiver versus Smitty is a nice route runner. Yeah, but Smitty's got great hands too. I mean, some of the catches I've seen Smitty make are just unbelievable. Yeah, he does. Dank. I understood your comp, Dank. I understood your comp. I thought it was a good one. Curtis says, very easy question to answer. Look who the defense highlights. That's fair. But that's partly because he's been the one. And maybe that answers the question as well, Curtis. Eagle and Censure, what's good? What's up, brother? Appreciate you being here. Smitty might be the most technical wide receiver in the league. If we're being real, the best route runner in the league. AJ doesn't have a bigger route tree than Smitty. I don't disagree. I just don't want to delegitimize what AJ brings. I mean, AJ is a physical presence that cannot be left unguarded or cannot be left, alone or cannot be left out of the game plan, to Curtis's point, So, I don't know. I thought it was an interesting conversation. I could see both. I could see the case for both. I think overall AJ is still a better player. But the other thing I'll say about AJ, how well does that style of receiver age? When you don't win on route running and you don't win on separation and you win on physically imposing your corners, which I think is a fine thing. What age is better? I don't know. You could make an argument if AJ loses one step, which some people have said he already has. I don't know if he has, but he loses one step. He's not going to be the same guy. So I could see that argument as well. Yeah, not well. Exactly. Julio, exactly. Terribly. They don't age well. I agree. Devontae Smith's types do age better. Oh, you said AJ gets little separation. Yeah, he does. I agree with that. I thought you said the opposite. Sorry, Joel. All right. Speaking of Joel, I think it's time, folks. I think it's time. That young backcourt's running full steam ahead, man. You got VJ Edgecombe. You got Tyrese Maxey, by the way. I mean, I know they drafted him a bit ago, and I've known that he's elevated, but I wasn't fully in on the Sixers the last 2 years. It's been 2 full years since I was really in on the Sixers. And I obviously know the players. I still keep up with them. They were my favorite team growing up. But Quentin Grimes, I like Paparo. But that dude, Tyrese Maxey, forget great point guard. Forget good player, great player. That dude is a superstar. He is a bona fide superstar. That is what That is what Maxey is in my eyes. And I've only watched 2.5 games this year. 2 games, I went back and rewatched the first game. I mean, that dude, Tyrese Maxey, is a fucking superstar. He's not just a great guard or a guy that's panned out for the 21st overall pick. He, in my opinion, is a superstar. He put up 43 last night. Like it was nothing. I mean, that dude can hoop. That dude can flat out hoop. I remember watching him at Kentucky Flex when he was at Kentucky. I remember watching him there. Curtis, Zander, you should get J-Mac worked up to start a show. Yeah, I do like to do that. Curtis, you know what I've realized that is probably not a good thing? Sometimes I let the narratives, because people always spew shit online, and it's fine. It is what it is. But sometimes I don't like being dishonest to get John worked up because people turn around and use it against you. And I understand it's the nature of the beast. It's the nature of being a talk show host. But I would like to be contrarian more to John. But then you go around a month later, and I have this dude in my. You should see this guy I have in my DMs right now. And I don't block him. I don't care. But this guy in my DMs is ridiculous. Ridiculous. You're this, you're that, you're a racist, you're this. I'm like, what, bro? What the fuck are you talking about? So people just use shit against you, and it's just like, is it worth getting John worked up to have a fun segment? As much as I would like to make sports talk like that, I think sports talk should be great again, and people should stop being such emotional wrecks about it. But it is what it is, The nature of the beast, Curtis. I think sometimes you try and protect your reputation a little bit, and there's 2 ways to look at that. There's pros and cons to it, Roll Philly says, Z, do you think Goddard has earned his extension? Great question, Roll Philly. Roll Philly, you got a lot of good questions today. Good comments today. I think Goddard's having a great year. I think Goddard's having a great year. By the way, anybody who's ever talked to me in my life, and this goes back to when I was a fucking toddler, knows that racist is the farthest thing from what I am. In fact, one of the things I always state is why the world is so consumed by the color of somebody's skin. I understand it means something. I understand there's history and there's depth to the conversation, but I don't give a fuck what you look like. I don't care if you're white. I don't care if you're black. I don't care if you're Asian. I don't give a fuck what you look like. I care about the content of your character. That is it. I've always been that way since I was a toddler. All right? I've always been that way. I've always been that way. Since I was 8 years old, 9 years old, I've been walking around the streets of Philadelphia delivering coats with my dad for Krause's Coats. And I remember all the kids who grew up where I grew up, they're not exposed to some of that stuff. They're not exposed to some of the inner city stuff. They're not exposed to, the different walks of life that people have. And they used to say to me, you go around homeless people in the city? Why would you do that? Why would you do that? And I used to be like, what are you talking about, dude? They're humans. They're struggling in life. I want to help them out if we can. I've always had a different perspective on it because, my dad's a special man. I don't think I just say that because he's my dad. My dad does a lot for a lot of people, and whatever. But that always bothered me. And Curtis, that's part of the reason that I think sometimes is it even worth it? Because people get their narratives and then they start to spew them online, and then people see what's said online and they fight and they stick to it, and it's just like, is it even fucking worth it? Is it even worth it? I don't know. Whatever. Now I'm getting off on a tangent, but that shit bothers me. That shit completely bothers me. Wow, that would be a great one, Kimberly. Can you get Pam Oliver on? I would imagine Pam will be tough to track down, but Cilio might have a good chance. Cilio knows everybody, man. He really does. He really does. I'll see. Xander, sometimes J-Mac talks like he's I know. Believe me, Big Mike. Believe me, Big Mike. Believe me. Mr. Sparks says, a good father is so important, meeting mine at home. God bless you. God bless you. I agree with you 100%. And I have a phenomenal father. No doubt about it. No doubt about it. All right, everybody. Love all you guys, man. Good show today. I'm gonna do the giveaway tomorrow. I was up till 2:30. I'm watching that. I told you guys I'm watching the World Series. I love the freaking World Series. And I watched the Sixers last night, so I didn't flip to the World Series game till about inning 5. And then I was flipping through the football game and the World Series game, flipping through those two. The football game got real boring in the second half. And I'm like, all right, I'm out on this fucking thing. Let me go watch the World Series. So I'm watching the World Series, and I'm sitting here in this chair. I have the TV over there, and I'm kicked back like this. And I'm like, man, it feels like it's getting late. I pick up my phone, and I'm like, what the hell is 2 a.m? How am I still watching this baseball game? How am I still watching this baseball game? But I was. So I went up to bed in the 14th inning. 14th or 15th inning. And then it ended in the 18th. So I'm kind of happy I went to bed, but I'm also kind of mad I went to bed because I was close. I was close to getting there, but they played basically 2 games last night. You know, the funnest part about the game last night is this. It's actually not the game last night. It's not the game last night. Now you have mayhem in the World Series in that bullpens are depleted. Everybody had a pitch last night. How are the teams and the managers going to manage their pitching staffs, their bullpens, their closers, all of everybody coming into the rest of the games in the series? I think that's the best storyline coming off of last night. Now this is when you can really see. This is when managers really play a big part. They really play a big part, you know, in the series. So I think the World Series just got a whole lot more interesting. Dodgers up 2-1. I happen to think the Dodgers are going to win the World Series. I just think they got too much firepower. Dodgers won last night on a Freddie Freeman walk-off. That dude is unbelievable. And by the way, I know some Phillies fans might not like enjoying Freddie Freeman because of, you know, he spent a lot of time with Atlanta. I freaking love Freddie Freeman. I love watching Freddie Freeman play baseball. I really do. I absolutely love watching the guy play baseball. And by the way, what a stupid organization, Atlanta. Does anybody remember the story? He wanted to go back to Atlanta so bad. He was willing to take a pay cut. He wanted to do anything to go back to Atlanta after winning a World Series in Atlanta. They let that guy walk out the door. He's now in his 2nd straight World Series and potentially going to win his 2nd straight. God bless him. God bless him. And what a stupid freaking move by the Atlanta Braves. You let that guy is the type of guy that embodies who you are as a franchise. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me, Atlanta? That is an egregious move. That's not what happened, KCA. He took the bag, but they wouldn't even come close to the offer. All that he did with that city and for that team finally got him over the top, helped get him over the top. Come on, man. KCA, if you put that on Freddie, I got news for you. I got a bridge to sell you in Brooklyn. All right? You got to be kidding me, man. It was his agent, Zander. He didn't tell Freddie they offered him. I don't think they offered him anywhere close, dude. Freeman is a great baseball player, though. That I do know. All right. How much you asking for that bridge? Isn't that where I think that's where that phrase originated? Bridge in Brooklyn, right? Because they were so expensive. I think that's where that phrase originated. Now people have turned it into like a phrase in Idaho. You know? Yeah, they should have brought out the Brinks truck. So, I don't know. A lot of good guys. It is the best sports time of the year. You got, not everybody will say that, but you got all 4 sports on right now. Right? You got the NHL started, the NBA started. The World Series isn't over yet, so you got baseball still on. And you're in the middle of the football season. College football's on. Everything is on right now. Every sport is on right now. So if you're a sports hunk, it's a great time. It is a great time. I'm telling you, last night I had my iPad out. I'm watching the Sixers game on the iPad because I was still working. On the TV, I was flipping between the World Series and the football game. A lot of sports on right now, man. A lot of sports on right now. So it's a great thing. It's a great thing. It's a great thing if you're a sports hunk. All right. Something I want to start doing this year a little bit is doing some Sixers streams. Vince says Edgecombe is crazy. Vince, you a basketball fan? Is that what you guys are? I know you said you were a fan of one American sport league, Vince, over there. Football was more new to you. Basketball has always had more worldwide appeal to people than football has. Always. It's always been that way. Football dominates in America. All right. But I think I'm going to do some Sixers streams this year. I think that'd be pretty fun to just do some streams either during a game or after a game or something like that. I think that'd be pretty cool. Expand the reach, So Eagle fan says, I only watch football. A lot of people like that. All right. Maxie, Sig, look, I just said, I don't know if you were here, Sig. He's a superstar. He's a superstar. He's not a good, great guard. He's not a play. He is a superstar, a certified superstar. I don't know how many of them there are in the league right now. He is a superstar. Let's look at the superstars right now in the league. And you tell me who you would add. Jokic is a superstar. Shea Gilgeous-Alexander is obviously a superstar. Luka Doncic is obviously a superstar. Giannis is obviously a superstar. Is Wemba? Do you guys put Victor Wembanyama as a superstar or whatever the hell his name is? Wemby. All right, I'll put Wemby as a superstar. Is Anthony Edwards a superstar in your opinion? I think he is. I got Anthony Edwards as a superstar. Steph Curry, is he still a superstar? Steph, LeBron, I know they're the old school guys, but are they still superstars? He's good. Quentin Grimes is good. He's good. Quentin Grimes, I'm good with that. I mean, he's not a superstar, obviously. He's a good player, though. Jason Tatum is obviously a superstar. I said Jokic. All right. Bron, I think, is probably still a superstar. Curry still is. All right, I'll give you those. Is KD still a superstar? Is Jalen Brunson a superstar? Is Jalen Brunson a superstar? Steph is amazing. He really is. Jimmy Butler's no superstar anymore. No, I don't know if he ever was, to be honest. I'm talking about superstar. I'm not talking about great player. There's a lot of great players. I'm talking about what the word is, Ryan. Superstar. I think Maxey is going to be a superstar this year. I really do. I think he's going to get the super max eventually. I think he's that good of a player. And he has the it factor. Basketball, the it factor in basketball is a big thing, in my opinion. It always has been. Because basketball is a game of stars. Football is not as much. You need great players, don't get me wrong, but football is the ultimate team game. Basketball is a game of stars. You know, you could have a superstar take over a game and single-handedly win you a game in the NBA Finals. You could. Halliburton, I guess he's a superstar. Jimmy Butler is not a superstar right now. No, he's not. Come on, man. I love Jimmy Butler. I loved him when he was with the Sixers. I loved Jimmy Buckets when he was with the Sixers. You know what? You know what else I'm feeling too with this new Sixers team is, as much as I like these young players, it's almost making me hate the older guys more. Like, I watch Maxey and Edgecombe and even Quentin Grimes and even that young center that's getting minutes right now, and I'm like, bro, Joel Embiid just leaves a bad taste in my mouth. Paul George, why the fuck did we sign Paul George? He's like 38 years old. Why did we sign Paul George for $52 million. He's a star, Jason, not a superstar. I think they got to get rid of Paul George, too. I don't know if Bona is better than Embiid, but right now he's certainly younger and faster. You know, I think you got to get rid of Paul George, too. Now, he's probably untradeable, Paul George. So you're probably just looking at how many more years does he have left on that deal? Hopefully one. This is where I just getting back into it. I got to, I used to be so far. I used to know everything. Basketball was my sport, man. Yeah, he's got plenty of years left, dude. Oh, my gosh. Oh, my God. He's got 3 years left. Oh, and a player option. Oh, good. Oh, good. He's got 2 years after this. Oh, my gosh. Who the fuck's up? This is where I hate Daryl Morey, bro. This is where I hate Daryl Morey. Why did you sign this guy for this long? Why the fuck would you sign a 37-year-old Paul George? Or what's he? How old is Paul George right now? Am I off? Is he not 38? How old is he? Paul George age. He's 35. All right, there's a difference there. 35 is younger than 38. But holy shit, he's going to be here till he's 38. Oh, what a waste. What a waste. He's not tradable. Nobody's taking that contract. Who the fuck would take Paul George's contract? He's making $52 million, $53 million. Yeah, 52. Right. This year he's 51.6. Next year he's 54. And the following year he's 56.5. Lovely. Lovely. 56.5 when he's 38 years old. Woo! Thank you, Daryl Morey. We don't need a young star to pair with our superstar Tyrese Maxey. Woo! We got Paul George. Yeah, baby. Guy wasn't even suited up last night. It's the fucking third game of the year. Paul George. Oh, God. You know what's funny? I never even liked Paul George in his prime. You guys remember how Paul George came up? He started with the Pacers, I believe, early. He was never really drafted to be a superstar or thought of to be. I think he was like a top 10 pick. I think he was like the 10th overall pick. I think, if I'm not mistaken. Paul George was a top 10 pick. Started with the Pacers. Didn't do a whole lot. Went to OKC. Went to the Clippers. He's been all over the place. I never really bought in that he was as good as people said he was. I never really bought into it. He did. He had a really nasty injury. That's very true. All right. When Speed asked Paul, I saw that, Keith. All right. Yeah, that's a tough one. That's going to be tough to get out from under. Yep, that's so true, Waddington. He got famous in those playoffs against LeBron. Facts. That is so true. Andrew Dirk, not doing it. All right. Not doing it. But yeah, so now we got these two old, slow farts. It's almost like, should we just cut them? I mean, what you got? We're going to be watching these two youngsters, Tyrese Maxey and VJ Edgecombe, running up the floor. And then you're going to see that the 7-foot tall skyscraper. Shot clock's going to be down to 14. Joel Embiid's going to be crossing half court. Maxey's going to be like, yo, dude, we needed you on the fast break 8 seconds ago. Where the fuck have you been? Joel's going to be like, my knees, man, my knees. My knees, I can't do it. Oh, I hate it because these old heads are going to slow down these young studs, man. You got two young studs right now in that backcourt. Build around those guys. These old ass Embiid and George, these dudes aren't going to be able to keep up with these young dudes. 20 minutes might be rich. I want these young guys. I want that Edwards guy to get more time. I want the Edwards guy to get more time. I do. Oh, also, I meant to ask this, okay? I meant to ask this. I'm keeping it on the Sixers topic. How many of you watched the Sixers last year, like a lot, like you were a fan last year? All right. How many of you watched the Sixers last year? Jason 18, what can you tell me about McCain? Because I didn't watch him much last year. He was a rookie last year, and I think he's got a great skill set. Now, John kind of poo-pooed him today, but what should I think of McCain? I was watching his highlight tape last night, and I'm like, holy shit, this guy's got a skill set that could really – I know he's got the pain in it. I don't really give a shit about that stuff. I mean, what am I supposed to do? Dictate what the guy does? I don't give a shit what he does with his life. I want him to be a good hooper. He's a really good – his highlights were incredibly impressive. I mean, you watch some of the skill sets he has, looks like it can translate to being like I don't know what a good comp would be, but just a great, really good skill set. Really good skill set. Now, I don't know what to think of him because I didn't watch him much, admittedly. I'm just being honest. I didn't watch him as much as I would like to. Great shooter, but Keys, he can get to the rack too, dude. He's a finisher at the rack. Based on what I saw, I just typed in, show me some Jared McCain Sixer highlights from his rookie season, and I kind of went from that. But apparently injuries have been a big problem. So Joel says McCain needs a manicure. Nah, Jason, I'm not taking Maxey off the ball. That is crazy. Jason says I'd put McCain at the 1 and Maxey at the 2. Are you still having Maxey as your primary ball handler? I'm not doing that, bro. Maxey's my ball handler. Stop. I need Maxey as my ball handler. Maybe McCain is the 1 on the second unit. I see what you're saying there, Crawley. He could cook second units. Keith, you think McCain should be the ball handler? I don't like that. Now, I didn't watch enough to be. I'll take your guys' word for it. You think Maxey be better coming off the ball? Because I'll tell you what, Maxey can handle that fucking ball, dude. I'll tell you what, he can create space. I mean, Maxey got up, what? How many shots last night he had? 30-something shots? I think he was 15 to 32 from the field. I mean, his three-point shots cash right now. He sets up players. I mean, Maxey is, I don't know. I got to really like McCain to take Maxey off the ball. So, I don't know. I wanted to ask you, some of you guys, though, about McCain. I'm gonna go and do some more research on the player. I'll go watch some of his college tape and stuff as well and get a better feel for him. But when does he return? Does anybody know when McCain should return for the team? Jared McCain. Anybody know when he's set there or supposed to return at least? He has a thumb, right? He had a thumb injury. Oof. He had surgery at the beginning of October, so probably mid-November. Okay, mid-November. Oh, Rolf Philly says, is Austin Reeves a superstar? He is 52 and 41 the last 2 games. Rolf Philly, I guess, I didn't watch enough hoops last year, Rolf Philly. It used to be my sport. And he's been more of the, come alive in the last couple years. Off the top of my head, I would say he's not a superstar, but I get where you're going with it. You drop 52 and 41 in the NBA. I mean, you're going to get those questions. I don't know. Penn says Jacob needs a Sixer show. Penn, I think I'm going to do one, dude. All right. Keese, define superstar versus star. That's true. It's, when I think superstar, I think rarefied air, perennial, put the ball in his hands no matter fucking what. Game on the line, ball is in his hands. Not, I like Edgecombe. I like McCain. I like Embiid. Put the ball in Maxey's hands when the game's on the line. Superstar to me is elevates an entire franchise immediately. I mean, superstar to me is superstar. Star to me is great player. Like Paul George to me was always a star. He was never a superstar, in my opinion. Allen Iverson's a perfect example of a superstar. Box office is a perfect word for it. I don't know if I could put Reeves as a superstar. I don't know. Phil, I think you're a Laker fan. Are you a Laker fan? I know you're a big LeBron guy. Roll Philly. So I don't know. I mean, you'd have to tell me what you think. I know Flexen's a Laker fan too. Greatness and influence. Those are good words, Vince. I agree. Yeah, I think he's more of a star than he is superstar. He's a star. Flexen says he's not Z. I agree, Flex. I mean, I don't watch enough Laker ball, so I can't sit here and opine on the Lakers like I know everything about them. But I agree, Keith. You definitely have a young star in the making with VJ. I'm a LeBron guy. I don't think Reeves is a super. Me neither. For Rollfield, he doesn't look like a superstar to me. But maybe that's just because he's a regular looking white dude with a classic white guy haircut. I don't know. There's quite a few of the white guys in the league right in the NBA right now, aren't there? A lot of these Euros, though. I don't know. I hope basketball gets fun again. I'm going to get into the Sixers because it's always been my, I've always loved basketball. Like growing up, I loved basketball. I told you guys, I was when the summer comes here, fall or spring comes, first thing I do is go outside, start shooting hoops. So Kimberly says Bama is recruiting Ty Simpson's brother as a sophomore quarterback. I saw that. Kimberly, he's great. Ty Simpson. I don't know about the brother, but the Ty is great. Crowley says, how can you be well, Crowley, I understand that you might not like everything about LeBron now, but whether you like LeBron or you don't like LeBron, you can't deny the impact that he's had on the sport. I mean, you just can't. I'm sorry, but and with that, Crowley, when you have a controversial player like that or a polarizing player, people are going to love him and people are going to hate him. That's just the nature of that type of player. Some people are going to love him for his play, for his politics, for whatever the case may be. And some people are going to hate him. It is what it is. I grew up as a big LeBron fan. I told you guys a story. I'll never forget where I was. I was cutting my lawn when he made the announcement he was going to Miami for the first time. I'll never forget it. But I'm not as big of a LeBron fan today as I once was. I'm not. I just, I think some of the stuff he's done has turned me off on him. I don't think he's always honest, to be honest. I don't think he's, but the one thing I always say that I respect LeBron tremendously for is when you grow up in the spotlight like he has, and you come up and you got reporters and people in your fucking games when you're in high school. Think about what you acted like when you were in high school. I want everybody to think about that. Think about when you were in high school. What your mindset was, what your perspective was, how uneducated you were. You're in high school, and you got people flocking. You're the cover of Sports Illustrated, and you can go through all of life and remain at the top and remain with a beautiful family. I mean, whatever you say about LeBron on the court, I don't really care. He's got a beautiful family. He's got a beautiful wife. And I'm not talking about beauty. I'm not talking about beauty in the sense of pretty. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about beautiful in that his kids are clearly all close-knit and together. His family is all clearly close-knit and together. I think that deserves a lot of credit, man. I really do. I do. All right. So that's my favorite part about LeBron. It always has been and it always will be. I think he's a great role model for a lot of people. Now, it doesn't mean I agree with everything he says. It doesn't mean I agree with all his opinions. All right. But being able to go through all of that in life and being, I mean, let's be real. He's one of the biggest stars the NBA has ever had and ever seen. I'm talking about the sheer magnitude of what LeBron became. Again, this is not about whether you like him or not. I don't really give a shit what you think of him. If you don't like him, it doesn't bother me. If you love him, it doesn't bother me either. There's been very few athletes that have come in. Yeah, I agree, Keith, that the world has ever seen that big. I mean, he got that big, you know? So to be able to manage, to be able to go through that and manage that and have your family and your kids grow up. I mean, whatever you think of Bronny and the kid, and they seem like they got good heads on their shoulders. They seem like they're humble, smart kids. I think that deserves credit. I really do. And again, I'm not the biggest LeBron guy in the world, but I always tell you guys, I try and always be objective and honest. That's just my honest opinion about it. You know, can't take that away from somebody, you know, because in my opinion, that's what makes a man. So I get that part of it for sure. I think LeBron deserves credit for that. Deshae is a LeBron hater. I don't know if he cheats on. I'm not going to get into that, dude. I don't fucking know. All right. I don't know. Deshae, I'm not going to opine on that. I don't, you know, it is what it is. But I think publicly you can see the family is close. You know, he's been the leader of that family, obviously. You know, he's dedicated to his craft, Deshae. Absolutely. Whatever you got to say about that. Absolutely dedicated to the craft, dedicated to the mission, to the work that it takes to be that great for that long of a period. So I see both sides, but I do appreciate, you know, that part of LeBron for sure. But all right, everybody, I love all you guys. I got to run. We will do a jersey giveaway tomorrow. All right, we'll do a jersey giveaway tomorrow. Should be good. I'm looking forward to doing that. Appreciate all of you guys for being here today. Let me make sure I got all my super chats. Sixers show. I might need to do one, folks. I might need to do a Sixers show. Okay. So appreciate everybody for being around, being here today. Hit that like button on the way out. See you next time, everybody.
You've been listening to Birds 365, the destination for the passionate Eagles football fan who bleeds green. If it's Eagles football, we're talking about it. Debate inside the locker room and guests that are some of the greatest football minds from around the region. We hope you enjoyed the show. We know we had a blast. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll be back soon. But in the meantime, hook up with us on social media at JAKIB Sports. See you next time on Birds 365.